Chapter 63, Managing the Spiritual Talisman Shop _1 HM? Changxing, have you broken through to the 4th level energy refinement? At this moment, 4th Elder noticed the change in spiritual power emanating from Lu Changsheng's body, her face revealing a surprised yet delighted expression. Although Lu Changsheng had used the aura concealment technique to hide his internal spiritual power, his mastery of the technique was not profound, merely at the stage of basic proficiency. After all, once he had learned the basics of these fundamental spells, he did not spend too much time or thought on them. As 4th Elder possessed the strength of the 9th level energy refinement, with careful observation, she could easily discern the changes in Lu Changsheng's cultivation level. Yes, Changxing just broke through to the 4th level energy refinement yesterday, so I came today to inform grandmother. Lu Changxing nodded and responded aloud. Good, good. I didn't expect you to break through to the 4th level energy refinement so quickly, much faster than grandmother had anticipated, 4th Elder said as she sat down next to the chair, smiling. Tell me, grandmother, said Lu Changxing, somewhat puzzled. What could someone at his level of 4th level energy refinement do? Our Lu family has a spiritual talisman shop in 9 Dragons Market, and I've been thinking of having you manage it, 4th Elder stated. Manage the spiritual talisman shop? Lu Changxing was somewhat astonished upon hearing this. Being a cultivation family, the Lu family naturally had various sources of income. For instance, the mountainous green spiritual bamboo and Bu spiritual bamboo were among the family's main sources of income. The spirit rice, spirit vegetables, and spiritual medicine that they usually cultivated were also sold in the marketplaces in excess of their personal needs. That's why the Lu family also had their own shops in some marketplaces. He knew 9 Dragons Market was a large marketplace relatively close to Qingzhou Mountain, established by the dominant power in the area, the Qingyun sect. Having been with the Lu family for so many years and entering its core circles, he had come to understand much more about the family's affairs. Families like the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain, although they claimed to be independent powers, were actually under the rule of the Qingyun sect. Every year, they were obliged to offer a tribute to the Qingyun sect. This was also why Lu Yuanding had been able to go to the Qingyun sect's mountains and recruit discarded disciples for marriage alliances. If you were a power with no connections to the Qingyun sect, would you dare to do such a thing? Back when the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain and the Qin family of Red Leaf Valley fought over the ownership of a spirit stone mine, both families' foundation establishment ancestors had taken action. In the end, it was an elder of Qingyun's sect who intervened to mediate and called a halt to the conflict, telling both families to cease their fight. Of course, the final verdict was that the Qingyun sect took 40% of the mine's profits, leaving the remaining 60% to be evenly split between the Lu family and the Qin family, at 30% each. When Lu Changxing first heard about this, he couldn't help but sigh. Truly, power was the supreme rule. The Lu and Qin families fought to the death over the spirit stone mine's profits, and then the Qingyun sect simply came and took away 40%, with the two families daring not say a word. The fact that this spiritual talisman shop was located in 9 Dragons Market also indicated that among the Lu family's numerous shops, it was quite a decent one. Unexpectedly, 4th Elder was actually suggesting to put such a shop under his management. Yes, I had previously left Miaoga in charge of the spiritual talisman shop, 4th Elder confirmed. But as you know, Miaoga has now been promoted to middle grade talisman master and is preparing to charge at the 7th level energy refinement, so she really doesn't have the time or energy to spare. That's why I thought of letting you learn to manage it, she continued. Your grandmother was somewhat apprehensive about you before, but now that you've broken through to the 4th level energy refinement, she feels much more at ease. Consider it a form of practice. Once you're familiar with it, grandmother will hand over the management of the spiritual talisman shop to you directly. The tasks are quite simple: keep an eye on the shop, replenish stock every month, and guide the apprentices occasionally. During this period, your grandmother will also provide you with an additional stipend. The 4th Elder picked up the tea, took a gentle sip, and spoke slowly. In the Lu family, apart from Lu Changxing, there are a total of 3 talisman masters. Her, Lu Miaoga, and a Lu family disciple who had recently advanced to an elementary talisman master. Now Lu Miaoga needs to concentrate on talisman making and spend time cultivating. she simply doesn't have much leisure time to manage the shop. That Lu family disciple has only just become an elementary talisman master, clearly not suitable. And Lu Changxing is not only a middle-grade talisman master but also her grandson-in-law. She has been quite satisfied with his performance over the past 6 months, essentially recognizing Lu Changxing as one of her own. So she thought of entrusting the shop to Lu Changxing. That would spare them the trouble of hiring a talisman master to preside over the shop. And it would also give Lu Changxing a chance to get involved with the Lu family business, to gain experience and to have a look around outside. After hearing the fourth elder's words, Lu Changxing's first impulse was to refuse. He just wanted to live a stable and low-key life in the Lu family. But with the fourth elder putting it that way, it would be hard for him to refuse when he had no good reason to do so. After all, in a cultivation family like the Lu family, members enjoy the benefits and treatment the family provides. At a certain age and level of power, they all have to contribute to the family. People like Lu Miaoge, who are talented and also possess an aptitude for talisman making, and who is the daughter of the family head, are no exception. Since he married Lu Miaoyun, he was now considered a member of the Lu family and naturally could not avoid such matters. Moreover, the fourth elder intended to entrust him with managing the spiritual talisman shop, which was a kind gesture for his benefit. It would not only bring him an additional income but also put him in charge of some business. He would get to know more things, and his status within the Lu family would also rise significantly. Changxing will abide by grandmother's arrangements, Lu Changxing said after a moment of thought, bowing in response. He also understood that it was unrealistic for him to expect to stay in the Lu family indefinitely without stepping outside or doing anything and still advance to foundation establishment. Since that was the case, he might as well agree. Nine Dragons Market, established by Qingyun sect, was a large marketplace with foundation establishment great cultivators standing guard. Inside the market, few dared to cause trouble. If he were to manage the spiritual talisman shop, he wouldn't need to worry too much about danger. Furthermore, taking care of the shop would mean an extra source of income. And with the thousands of talismans he had stored, he would find it easier to sell them. When it came to buying materials for cultivating the 100 refinements treasure body art, it would be much more convenient. In the past 6 months, during his talisman trade with Hong Yi's appointed persons, he also asked Hong Yi to purchase materials on his behalf. But it was not only time-consuming, the materials he needed were not always available, and the back-and-forth communications were extremely inconvenient. If he went to Nine Dragons Market himself, buying whatever materials he wanted in the future would become very convenient. The only downside was that life in Nine Dragons Market wouldn't be as comfortable as it was now. Without the benefits of a second-grade spiritual vein and his wives not by his side, he would fall behind in childbearing. However, if he went to the market, he could also look into taking a few fairies with spiritual roots as concubines. After all, when it comes to having children, especially those with spiritual roots, taking concubines is necessary. Perhaps his useless peach blossom goo might prove to be somewhat effective. At the moment, Lu Changxing felt that he hadn't encountered any romantic luck simply because he never left the house, thus the peach blossoms couldn't find their way to him. Alright, then it's settled. When Miaoge returns in a few days, you'll go with her, the fourth elder agreed with a smile. Yes, grandmother, Lu Changxing nodded in agreement. Afterwards, he took 2 boxes of spirit fruit pastries back home from the fourth elder's house. Chapter 64, The Hardworkingly Feiyu_1 After returning home, Lu Changxing spoke to his wives and concubines, including Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin, about his plans to travel to Nine Dragons Market in some time. His wives and concubines reacted with mixed feelings upon hearing this news. They were pleased that Lu Changxing was taking responsibility for the family's enterprise, which was a good thing and demonstrated the Lu family's esteem for him. The worry stemmed from the fact that Lu Changxing would be away from home for a long while, which was quite hard for them to bear. The Nine Dragons Market is not far from Qingzhou Mountain. When the time comes, I can return home once a month, just like the young miss. Once your husband gets acquainted there, I will take you out for a visit too. Lu Changxing said to his wives and concubines. He had always found life in Qingzhou Valley somewhat dull and boring. The wives and concubines naturally felt the same. Therefore, if it turned out to be relatively stable in Nine Dragons Market, he thought of bringing a few of his wives and concubines over to stay and have fun, as a way to unwind. "Thank you, husband. Thank you, husband." The women were very happy to hear this. "Husband, take Xiao Qin with you when you go," suggested Lu Miaoyun. "That way, you'll have someone to look after you." Lu Miaoyun spoke up to Lu Changxing at this point. "I'm a grown man, I don't need anyone to look after me. Besides, you need Xiao Qin to serve you right now," he replied with a wave of his hand, indicating he didn't need her to come. Husband, just take Xiao Qin with you. If I can't accompany you, let Xiao Qin be by your side, please." Lu Miaoyun immediately bit her tender lip, her large watery eyes gazing at Lu Changxing. At the same time, she gently shook his arm while leaning against him, cooing sweetly in a tender and charming voice. All right, I'll take her, just as you wish, Yuner." Lu Changxing had always been a man to yield to gentleness rather than force. Seeing his wife's coquettish pleading, he indulgently agreed right away. He guessed that Lu Miaoyun wanted him to take Xiao Qin not only for her company but also to have someone keep an eye on him, to prevent him from flirting with other women outside and bringing back a flock of women. However, Lu Changxing didn't mind. He felt it would be fine to take Xiao Qin along. It is easy to go from frugality to luxury, but difficult to go from luxury to frugality. He had been served by others for years and would indeed feel unaccustomed in a place without someone to serve him. Having his own person by his side would be convenient. Moreover, if he really wanted to take additional concubines, it would make no difference whether Xiao Qin was with him or not. But let's first see what the situation is like over there before deciding. "We don't even know what it's like right now," Lu Changxing said, pinching his wife's cheek. After all, he was going there for business. Bringing a maidservant without knowing anything about the situation would seem as if he were going for pleasure rather than business, and it would leave a poor impression. Seeing her husband agree, Lu Miaoyun immediately gave a sweet and slightly naive smile. She also understood that preventing her husband from taking new concubines was impossible. But as a woman and a wife, it wasn't possible to just watch and do nothing either. That night, knowing that Lu Changxing would leave home in a few days, all his wives and concubines lovingly attended to him with tender care. After 6 months of cultivating the 100 Refinements treasure body art, nourishing himself with dietary delicacies, and spiritual wine, as well as breaking through to the 4th level energy refinement, Lu Changxing's combat abilities had also greatly increased. However, faced with the devoted affections and relentless attentions of his wives and concubines, Lu Changxing was still overwhelmed. He even suspected that his wives were using this method to remind him not to flirt or take new women in Nine Dragons Market. "Once I get to Nine Dragons Market, I should put in more effort to complete the 100 Refinements treasure body technique as soon as possible," he thought. "Otherwise, if I return home every month, I won't be able to withstand it, and I'll have no face to take concubines or bring new women back home." Lu Changxing lay on his bed, silently musing. The following day, Lu Changxing suddenly remembered his transaction of talismans with Hong Yi. Every 3 months, Hong Yi would send someone to trade talismans, and there was a little over a month left until the next trade. If he went to Nine Dragons Market, he very likely wouldn't be at home when the time came. So, Lu Changxing informed Lu Miaoyun about the talisman trade and gave her 30 pre-drawn talismans. He told her to handle the trade with Hong Yi's envoy when they arrived. Selling some low-quality talismans to a friend isn't something worth hiding. The Lu family knows. Then they know, Hong Yi thought to himself. Moreover, Hong Yi felt that the Lu family might have known about his affair for quite some time. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoyun was very clever in her response, assuring Hong Yi that he could rest easy. Afterward, Hong Yi went to Qingzhou Villa, thinking of having a chat with Li Feiyu to see how he had been recently. However, when he arrived at Li Feiyu's home, Li Feiyu was not there. Li Feiyu's wife told Hong Yi that Li Feiyu had gone farming. Surprised by this news, Hong Yi was astonished. After chatting with Li Feiyu's wife, he learned that a few months earlier, after Li Feiyu had become proficient as a spiritual butcher, he also mastered the skills of a spirit planter, the minor cloud rain technique and the Gingjin technique. He then took a job as a spiritual farmer from Uncle Fu. Not only that, sometimes Li Feiyu would also take on work for refining and processing materials. Many low-grade spiritual materials, due to the large amount of impurities they contained, could not be used directly. Therefore, a job was created for cultivators to use their spiritual power to cleanse and refine the materials continuously, removing the impurities. Upon hearing this, Hong Yi didn't know what to say for a moment. He couldn't help but sigh, thinking that cultivation was hard, but survival was even harder. Yet, he also faintly understood that Li Feiyu was working so hard not only to support his family, but also to prepare for the day when he would leave the Lu family. After all, the work of a spiritual butcher alone would be enough for Li Feiyu to support his family. Around noon, Li Feiyu returned, covered in dust and clearly weary, but his eyes were bright and full of energy. Back when he was with the Lu family, he only had the task of having children every day. Now, no longer bound by that duty, his life was hard, but at least it offered a glimmer of hope. After all, the most frightening thing for people is to see no hope at all. Changsheng, what brings you here? Li Feiyu was surprised to see Hong Yi at his home. I just came to see how you're doing, Hong Yi said with a smile. He then told Li Feiyu that he would leave the Lu family in some time to head to the Nine Dragons market. If there was anything Li Feiyu needed, he could make purchases on his behalf. Though Qingzhou Villa had 100 treasures pavilion, from Hong Yi's perspective, the selection of items available for purchase was quite limited. At the Lu family, valuable items required an application and expenditure of family contributions. Li Feiyu, of course, had nothing to buy. He simply told Hong Yi to be careful outside, and shared some experiences and precautions for traveling out in the world. While what Li Feiyu spoke about pertained to the secular world of martial artists, these principles were equally applicable in the cultivation world. Then, Hong Yi also told Li Feiyu that if there was anything he needed help with, he shouldn't hesitate to ask, and not be embarrassed about it. It would be a real loss if Li Feiyu were to wear himself out with his efforts in the Lu family. Upon hearing this, Li Feiyu somewhat awkwardly requested to borrow some spirit stones. He explained that while working as a spiritual butcher, he learned that the Lu family raised a type of spiritual hog known as black hogs. These black hogs could be sold for around 50 spirit stones each after 3 years of raising. In the past 6 months, he had mastered the breeding process and methods for these black hogs and wished to raise 2 on his own. But the cost for 1 piglet was 6 spirit stones, and he currently did not have enough initial capital, only managing to spare 4 spirit stones. Upon hearing this, Hong Yi couldn't help shaking his head, thinking how determined Li Feiyu was. Not only was he juggling his role as the spiritual butcher and spirit planter, but he was also planning on raising 2 spiritual hogs. However, he also knew that with Li Feiyu's current circumstances, hard work and effort were his only options for cultivation. Right away, Hong Yi took out 20 spirit stones and lent them to Li Feiyu. Hong Yi's personal income at the Lu family amounted to roughly 10 spirit stones monthly. In addition, completing his talisman-making tasks granted him another 10 spirit stones each month, and he could often turn in an extra 3 to 5 talismans for about another 10 spirit stones. Moreover, every 3 months, Hong Yi could also expect over 40 spirit stones from Hong Yi. Therefore, his current income was quite substantial. So, he was able to lend some spirit stones to help Li Feiyu. But Li Feiyu only borrowed 10, stating that 10 would be sufficient, and he could repay them once the spiritual rice from the spirit fields was ready to be harvested. Hong Yi didn't say much in response, understanding Li Feiyu's character. Later, after having a meal at Li Feiyu's place, the 2 men enjoyed some spiritual wine and chatted before Hong Yi took his leave. Chapter 65, The Gift. _1 Before long, more than half a month had passed. One day, the steward from the 4th elder's residence came and requested Lu Changsheng's presence. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng immediately followed the steward to the 4th elder's dwelling. As soon as he entered the hall, he saw the 4th elder talking with Lu Miaoge about something. He approached, and with a slight bow, said, "Grandmother, Sister Miaoge." Having studied talisman making under the 4th elder for so long, his manner of addressing Lu Miaoge had also changed, becoming much more intimate. However, this intimacy was not the kind he desired. "Changsheng, you are here. Seeing Lu Changxing arrive, the fourth elder smiled and nodded, saying, I have already discussed with Miaoga the matter of you accompanying her to manage the spiritual talisman shop in the Nine Dragons Market. You will follow my Ayage's arrangements when the time comes. She will also be in the Nine Dragons Market for the next period, so you should ask her for advice often. So said the fourth elder. Yes, grandmother. Lu Changxing nodded and turning towards Lu Miaoga, bowed again. They'll be relying on Sister Miaoga from now on. It's no trouble. Lu Miaoga gently shook her head, her voice always soft-spoken and gentle as water. Changxing, you rarely go out, so for this trip, grandmother has prepared some gifts for you. The fourth elder said to Lu Changxing. In the midst of her words, she took out 3 brocade boxes of different sizes from her storage bag and placed them on the table. Thank you, grandmother. Lu Changxing's eyes brightened upon hearing this, curious about the fourth elder's gifts. His grandmother was an elder of the Lu family, a top-level talisman master of the first grade. Her gifts would certainly be generous. Open them and see. The fourth elder said with a smile. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoga also looked on curiously, wondering what gifts her great-aunt had prepared for Lu Changxing. Lu Changxing opened the first long-shaped brocade box. Inside lay a 3-foot-long sword in a green scabbard, with a tassel of green threads. This magical sword is named Green Face, and it is a middle-grade magic artifact. However, it contains a trace of green goldstone, making its sharpness far superior to others of its grade and very suitable for you to use now. The fourth elder introduced. Lu Changxing was surprised as he looked at the Green Face sword in front of him. He had not expected his great-aunt to be so generous as to gift a middle-grade magical instrument. Lower-grade magical instruments typically cost around 50 spirit stones. Middle-grade magical instruments cost around 150 spirit stones. Although after breaking through to the middle stage of energy refinement, one can employ a middle-grade flying sword, many cultivators at the late stage of energy refinement cannot afford, or are unwilling to purchase, a middle-grade magical instrument. Like those 3 robber cultivators he had killed on Bullhead Mountain, they had the cultivation levels of the 6th and 7th level of energy refinement, yet they all wielded lower-grade magical instruments. And this Green Face sword was clearly not just an ordinary middle-grade magical instrument. Its price was likely around 200 spirit stones. Thank you, grandmother. Lu Changxing expressed his thanks and picked up the magical sword. It was slightly heavy and cool to the touch. The scabbard was entirely green like jade. The scabbard bore gold inlaid patterns, and the tassel was gold, clearly decorative additions made afterward. Magical swords like this one can generally change in size according to one's will. Seeing this style of magical sword, he knew that it was not in the same league as the flying sword he had obtained from Bullhead Mountain. It was clearly a high-end flying sword. Because with flying swords, the most common feature is sharpness, practicality. Only high-end flying swords would have effort put into their appearance. Lu Changxing pulled the sword from its sheath. The blade was entirely silver-white, but the surface had a faint halo of green gold flowing over it, the cold light flickering. The fourth elder smiled and directly opened the second brocade box. Within the second box lay an exquisite and majestic vestment robe, with the light shimmering over its sky-blue fabric, edged with gold embroidery. For managing the shop on this outing, you should dress well to reflect your status. This is a middle-grade magical robe with a total of 7 magical array effects: size adjustment, dust avoidance, springtime warmth, wind transformation, concealment, spirit concentration, and body protection. I won't go into detail about the first 3 effects, as they are similar to the ones on your current Qingzhou robe. Wind transformation allows fierce winds to be softened into gentle breezes. Grandma has applied for an iron feather eagle from the family for you, so your future travels to and from the Nine Dragons marketplace will be much more convenient. The wind transformation effect of this robe will allow you to ride the iron feather eagle without being affected by strong winds, without the need to expend mana to resist them. Grandma knows you don't like to show off. The concealment function allows the robe's radiance to be contained, making it appear like ordinary clothing and not attracting attention. The spirit concentration effect can gather a small scope of concentrated spirit energy, which is somewhat helpful for your cultivation. The body protection effect can passively trigger a body protecting technique when you're in danger, capable of blocking a single hit from a cultivator at the 7th level energy refinement. The fourth elder spoke slowly, introducing the magical robe to Lu Changsheng. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng's face lit up with surprise. A middle-grade magical robe. The robe he was currently wearing was the Qingzhu robe awarded to him by Lu Yuanding for being the first child born into the Lu family. It didn't even count as a lower-grade magical instrument. It had only 3 basic effects: size adjustment, springtime warmth, and dust avoidance. But this middle-grade magical robe boasted 7 effects in total. For more than the original, including spirit concentration, wind transformation, concealment, and body protection. Especially body protection. The ability to passively trigger a body-protecting technique when in danger, capable of blocking a single hit from a cultivator at the middle stage of energy refinement, was incredibly delightful to Lu Changsheng. With this robe, he no longer had to worry about being ambushed by other martial artists or cultivators up close. "Thank you, Grandma." Lu Changsheng bowed his hands in gratitude once again, his face full of joy. In this moment, he couldn't help but feel appreciative of his grandmother's generous gesture. A middle-grade magical instrument was worth 150 spirit stones. That usually referred to magical swords and the like. The price of a robe would be considerably higher. This middle-grade magical robe was estimated to be worth 200 spirit stones. With the green face sword and this robe, the cost was over 400 spirit stones. And what's more, this gift was not just expensive, his grandmother had also put a lot of thought into it, covering every aspect thoroughly. Lu Changsheng had thought he would be riding a spirit steed to the 9 Dragons marketplace. Unexpectedly, the fourth elder had secured him a flying mount. In the Lu family, flight mounts were also scarce and very rare. The fourth elder smiled, opened the 3rd brocade box, and cheerfully said, "These are a few talismans I've drawn myself for you to carry for protection." There were a total of 3 talismans inside. Lu Changsheng recognized these 3 talismans at a glance. Superior Grade Talisman, Thunder Summoning Talisman. Superior Grade Talisman, Escape Talisman. Supreme Talisman, Thunder Talisman. The Thunder Summoning Talisman and the Escape Talisman, both being rather difficult superior grade talismans, could sell for 40 to 50 spirit stones each if put on the market. The Supreme Talisman, Thunder Talisman, was even more valuable, worth at least 200 spirit stones. With the green face sword, the middle grade magical robe, and these 3 talismans, the total value was at least 700 spirit stones. Back when Lu Changsheng was on Bullhead Mountain, after killing 3 robber cultivators, his total gains amounted to roughly 500 spirit stones, which was already a considerable fortune. But at this moment, the fourth elder directly presented him with gifts worth over 700 spirit stones, a truly grand gesture. "Thank you, Grandma." This gift made Lu Changsheng somewhat moved. He bowed and earnestly said. Indeed, it was because he had value that the Lu family, and the fourth elder before him, treated him so well. But many things are judged by actions rather than intentions, and at least the kindness of the fourth elder before him was genuine. All this, Lu Changsheng remembered in his heart. We're all family here. There's no need for thanks when a grandmother gives something to her grandson, the fourth elder said gently to Lu Changsheng. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng looked at the fourth elder and showed a sincere smile, nodding his head and saying, "Yes, Grandma." "Changsheng, do you recognize these 3 talismans?" The fourth elder pointed to the 3 talismans in the brocade box and asked. Chapter 66, Magic Artifact, Magical Robe. _1 Grandmother, I naturally recognize these 3 talismans, Lu Changsheng said. This one is a superior grade talisman, the Thunder Summoning Talisman, which can unleash a bolt of lightning comparable to a full strike from a 9th level energy refinement cultivator. This is a superior grade talisman, the Escape Talisman, which, when used, can conceal one's form and burrow into the ground, escaping several miles away. And this is a Supreme Talisman, the Thunder Talisman, releasing a bolt of lightning upon activation, equivalent to a peak 9th level energy refinement cultivator's full force strike. Lu Changsheng spoke gravely. He could naturally tell that these 3 talismans had been specially prepared for him by the 4th elder, to protect him in case of any danger or mishaps. With these 3 talismans by his side, as long as he didn't encounter a Foundation Establishment great cultivator, he basically had the power to protect himself. That's right, it seems you have been studying seriously, Changxing. These should not pose a challenge for you. Keep these items, and put on this magical robe for grandmother to see, the 4th elder said with a smile, reaching out her palm and gently touching Lu Changsheng's head with a tender voice. Yes. Lu Changsheng nodded, put away the 3 brocade boxes, and went to a side hall to change clothes. Lu Miaoge, who was at the side, also showed surprise in her eyes upon seeing these 3 gifts. Surprised at how generous her great-grandmother was. Although her great-grandmother was a talisman master and had much more wealth than the average cultivator, cultivators always seemed to spend as much as they earned. There was no habit of saving money, they would instead convert all resources into personal cultivation and strength. Therefore, this gift worth more than 700 spirit stones could really be considered a grand gesture. Moreover, the 4th elder had also put thought into these 3 items, all according to Lu Changsheng's current situation. Even though she couldn't help but envy the favoritism her great-grandmother showed towards Lu Changsheng, in her heart, she also understood the probable reason. On one hand, her great-grandmother wanted Lu Changsheng to fully integrate into the Lu family. On the other hand, it was also because of how Lu Changsheng had conducted himself in the past half-year, earning the liking of the 4th elder. Almost treated by the 4th elder as a biological grandson. That's why she was so indulgent and generous. Lu Changsheng came to the side hall. He took off the Qingzhu robe he had been wearing for 5 years. He put on the middle-grade magic artifact magical robe given by the 4th elder. Perhaps it was because the clan color of the Lu family of Qingzhu Mountain was green. Or maybe the 4th elder had always seen him in a green robe. Thus, the magical sword and the robe she gave were both green. However, having lived with the Lu family for so many years and always wearing the Qingzhu robe, Lu Changsheng had grown accustomed to the color and found it pleasing to the eye. The style of this magical robe was similar to the Qingzhu robe. But it obviously looked several classes higher, far more exquisite and luxurious. The sky blue brocade robe was embroidered with lifelike and vibrant bamboo leaves in a darker blue thread, with a layer of elegant and intricate gold thread trimming decorating the collar and cuffs. With the enhancement of formation, a faint spiritual light emerged while the robe was worn. As the saying goes, clothes make the man just as the saddle makes the horse. The already handsome and dashing Lu Changsheng looked even more distinguished with the embellishment of this robe. As expected of a middle-grade magic artifact robe, the experience of wearing it is clearly different, Lu Changsheng mused to himself, feeling joyful like a child getting new clothes during New Year in his previous life. He delightedly caressed the silky smooth magical robe, enjoying the wonderful feeling. Wearing it felt as light as a feather, which made him sense a clear difference from the Qingzhu robe he previously wore. As a middle-grade magic artifact robe, it didn't only possess the effect of 7 major formations, but its fabric was also incredibly durable, woven from demon beast fur and other spiritual materials. Being impervious to water and fire, and immune to the cut of blades were just the basic features, which didn't need to be mentioned further. Lu Changsheng tried to sense the self-dimming array within the magical robe. Instantly, the spiritual light on the magical robe faded and became restrained, and the fabric appeared plain. It now looked like a rather exquisite piece of brocade clothing. That looks much more normal, otherwise it's too conspicuous, practically telling others, I am a fat sheep. Lu Changsheng looked at the now discreet appearance of the magical robe and clicked his tongue. He thought highly of the effect of the self-dimming array, finding it perfect for himself, and decided that in the future, his clothes must have this feature. Then, he switched the self-dimming array off, letting the robe shine with spiritual light again. He attached the green face sword to his waist and walked out of the side chamber with a composed and serene demeanor. Inside the main hall. When the 4th elder saw Lu Changsheng, with his handsome, clear-cut features, tall and slender figure, wearing a sky-blue vestment robe with embroidered golden bamboo edges, and a jade longsword at his waist, his eyes lit up. A gentle and rich expression appeared on his gentle face, as he said with an affectionate smile of an elder, not bad, it seems my Changxing was born to wear such magical robes, very handsome. Having practiced the immortal beauty technique for so many years and having received the peach blossom goo, Lu Changsheng's face could certainly be described as striking, with an extraordinary temperament. In terms of the immortal beauty technique, it was an outstanding peak, a half-step beyond the ordinary. With handsome features and a gentle temperament, his deep-set features came together just right, making him extremely pleasant to look at. It was like basking in the spring breeze. Now donning the magical robe with spiritual light circulating around him, the gentle and unhurried elegance of his temperament gained an air of immortality as if he were an exile from the heavens. It's all thanks to grandmother's good eye for clothes. Lu Changxing responded generously, his temperament soft and gentle as jade or a spring breeze. Grandmother speaks the truth, Changxing, you truly fit this kind of magical robe tremendously, giving off an aura of immortality, the fourth elder said with a smile. Then, he looked towards Lu Miaoge, right, Miaoge? Lu Miaoge, standing to the side, looked at Lu Changxing. She had to admit that he looked indeed very handsome. She had seen men with better looks than Lu Changxing before. But she had never seen someone like Lu Changxing, who had a harmonious blend of features, skin, physique, posture, and temperament. There was an indescribable harmony and comfort to his presence, making him exceedingly pleasant to behold, naturally engendering goodwill in others. Especially at this moment, with the robe's spiritual light swirling around him, it perfectly complemented Lu Changsheng's physique and aura. He bore quite the air of a celestial being. Brother-in-law Changxing really suits this kind of magical robe. It's also thanks to great-grandma's discerning taste in knowing what clothes suit Changxing best, Lu Miaoge said with a light smile, her voice as gentle as a cloud. Lu Changxing chuckled, not expecting this young lady to have such high emotional intelligence. Changxing, remember to go to Lu later to get the iron feather eagle. I've already spoken with Lu, the fourth elder said with a smile. In 2 days, you will depart for the 9 Dragons market with Miaoge. Spend these next 2 days at home, keeping Miaoyun and the others company. The fourth elder walked up with a smile, straightened Lu Changsheng's collar, and smoothed out the creases of the robe. This caring and doting gesture from an elder moved Lu Changxing deeply. The heart is made of flesh. Over the past 6 months, this fourth elder had been nothing short of wonderful to him. He nodded and replied, rest assured, grandmother. After that, the fourth elder gave further guidance to him and Lu Miaoge on talisman making. At present, Lu Changsheng's talent for talisman crafting was on the right path. The fourth elder and Lu Miaoge had also more or less come to accept that Lu Changxing was indeed a 1 in a million talent in the talisman path. Lu Changxing estimated that with another couple of years' practice, he would be able to reveal himself as a superior grade talisman master. At that time, his standard of living would rise yet another step. He was quite looking forward to it. If he became a superior grade talisman master, he wondered if the Lu family would marry more sisters to him in order to win him over and deepen his ties with the family. At noon, the two left the residence of the fourth elder. Lu Changxing made the magical robe's spiritual light discreet and went to Lu Boss' residence to collect the iron feather eagle. Chapter 67, Iron Feather Eagle. _1, Lu Changxing, you've come to collect the iron feather eagle, haven't you? Lu Bo recognized Lu Changsheng's intention as soon as he saw him. He glanced at the magical robe Lu Changxing was wearing. Although after the spiritual light dimmed, the robe looked like ordinary fine clothing. But upon close inspection, differences could still be discerned from the fabric and craftsmanship compared to regular clothes. Yes, Lu Bo, I will be heading to the 9 Dragons market in a couple of days, so the fourth elder sent me to collect an iron feather eagle from you, Lu Changxing said with a smile, nodding. The 9 Dragons market is good, a fine place. It's not far from Qingzhou Mountain and it's safe. When you're young, you should go out and see the world, to gain experience, Lu Bo said, nodding with a smile. Lu Bo took out a yellow leather bag and a coppery yellow token, handing them to Lu Changxing. This is your iron feather eagle. The spiritual pet bag works the same as a storage bag, and this beast control token will allow you to communicate simply with the iron feather flying eagle and issue commands. You haven't ridden such an iron feather eagle before, so you should get used to it in advance. Let me take you outside to get accustomed to it, continued Lu Bo. Thanks, Lu Bo, Lu Changxing replied with a nod as he took the spiritual pet bag and the beast control token, examining them. This was the first time he had encountered such things. He had previously thought about buying a spiritual pet bag for his 9 netherhound. Later, he considered it unnecessary since he was not going out, thus he didn't want to waste the money and planned to buy one later. Moreover, Lu Changxing had no intention of taking the 9 netherhound with him to the 9 dragons market. The 9 netherhound was still a first-grade initial stage demon beast, not of much use if taken outside. Better to keep it at home to continue being a playmate for the children. Thereupon, Lu Bo took Lu Changxing out of Qingzhou Valley to a spacious open area. Several Lu family disciples were here, practicing their spells and even attempting sword flight. Cultivators at the 3rd level of energy refinement could manipulate a flying sword and thus attempt sword flight. But it was just for the experience of playing around. To truly perform sword flight, one must reach the energy refinement late stage. At that time, the internal spiritual power would be sufficient to support short-distance flight. And a specific flying artifact must be purchased, otherwise, the consumption of spiritual power would still be significant. Lu Bo, Brother Changxing. Brother-in-law, Lu Bo. Upon seeing Lu Changxing and Lu Bo, these Lu family disciples all greeted them. He, continue with your practice. I'm here to help Changxing get familiar with the iron feather eagle, Lu Bo said with a nod and a smile toward the group. Upon hearing this, some of the Lu family disciples looked at Lu Changxing with surprise and envy. One of them asked, Brother Changxing, are you going out to gain experience? Iron feather eagles served as the Lu family's flying mounts, which only a few members of the family and elders could apply for when traveling. Yes, I'm going to the 9 dragons market in a few days, Lu Changxing nodded with a smile, not concealing his intentions. After all, this was no secret. SSS. 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 Hearing this, the gaze of the Lu family disciples towards Lu Changxing became even more envious. In a cultivation family like the Lu family, once a family disciple reaches a certain age and strength, they're arranged to go out and gain experience. It's not just because they can't be supported indefinitely, but to contribute to the family. Only by venturing out for experience and seeking opportunities could one hope for a slim chance to reach foundation establishment. Otherwise, most disciples with average talent had no hope of establishing their foundation in this lifetime. The experience arranged by the family consisted of sending them to work in various marketplaces. These marketplaces naturally varied in quality. Places like the 9 Dragons Market not only had a good environment but also were close to Qingzhou Mountain, making them top-notch destinations. However, only a few outstanding disciples would be arranged to go to the 9 Dragons Market for their experience. For the less fortunate, they might even be assigned to pioneer new territories in certain spiritual lands. They had not expected that Lu Changxing's arranged outing would not only provide him with an iron feather eagle as a mount but also send him to the 9 Dragons Market. Such treatment was simply enviable. However, knowing that Lu Changxing was a first-grade middle-grade talisman master, they understood their envy was pointless. They couldn't even dream of becoming middle-grade talisman masters. Even becoming lower-grade talisman masters would be sufficient for a better treatment. Alas, I will also be going out for experience next year. I wonder where I will be arranged to go. In my opinion, as long as it's not pioneering new lands, it's all the same everywhere. The worse and more dangerous the environment, the more opportunities there are. With our talent, if we want to establish our foundation, we have to take the risk. That's right. Although the 9 Dragons Market has a good environment, it is too comfortable and lacks opportunities. But how many can make it through struggle? I'm just an 8th grade spiritual route, I won't even think about foundation establishment. I'd be content to take several wives and concubines like Lu Changxing in the future. Several Lu family disciples couldn't help but discuss their futures. Despite their dedication to cultivation, they too felt a bit lost about what lay ahead. Lu Bo brought Lu Changxing to an uninhabited place and said, Lu Changxing, you can get used to it here. Lu Changxing nodded, looked toward his spiritual pet bag, and immediately sensed inside a vast eagle with feathers as dark as black iron. His mental spirit gave a slight flicker, and he opened the spiritual pet bag. The iron feather eagle turned into a shadow of dark light and flew out, landing in front of him, standing 2 meters tall with feathers shimmering with a black luster under the sunlight, looking very mighty. Lu Changxing could faintly sense the emotions of the iron feather eagle through the beast control token in his hand. It harbored some fear toward him. This iron feather eagle has been tamed to lose its wild nature and is very gentle. You can ride it directly. Then, with the beast control token, you just need to give commands with your mental spirit, Lu Bo said, reminding him from the side. Be careful. At first, don't fly too fast, too high, or too far. Okay, Lu Changxing replied, nodding his head. He cast the light body skill on himself and with a leap, he landed firmly on the eagle's back. First, he squatted on the iron feather eagle, tightly grasping its black iron-like feathers, then conveyed his command to the eagle through the beast control token. Take off. Instantly, the iron feather eagle flapped its wings vigorously and soared swiftly into the sky. Winds howled around Lu Changxing, making it difficult for him to even keep his eyes open. But the next moment, the wind dispersion formation in his magical robe was activated, emitting a faint glow, dispersing the howling winds and turning them into a gentle breeze. The other Lu family disciples turned to look over when they heard the commotion. Witnessing Lu Changxing seated on the iron feather eagle, their eyes were filled with immense envy. After all, it was a flying mount. For low-level cultivators, having a flying mount was not only convenient for travel, but it also made for an impressive spectacle. Is this what it feels like to fly? Lu Changxing pondered, gripping the iron feather eagle tightly, feeling both nervous and excited. This sensation was entirely different from flying in an airplane in his past life. He did not let the iron feather eagle fly too high. If he were to fall from a great height, at the 4th level energy refinement, he wouldn't be able to withstand the fall. There was a reason the iron feather eagle was used as a flying mount by the Lu family. It flew very steadily. And with the effects of the magical robe dispersing the wind, Lu Changxing felt extremely stable. After riding for a while, Lu Changxing gradually loosened up and became comfortable. He let go of his grip and sat cross-legged on the eagle's back, letting the iron feather eagle fly through the air with him. After a few laps, Lu Changxing had the iron feather eagle land. After all, Lu Bo was still waiting for him below. Chapter 68, Going Out for the Second Time. _1, Not bad, Lu Changxing, you're adjusting quite quickly. Some people are scared of heights and need several days to get used to their first flight. Lu Bo said with a smile after watching Lu Changxing land. Lu Bo, do you know if this iron feather eagle can carry 2 people when flying? Lu Changxing asked, looking towards Lu Bo. He felt that the iron feather eagle could carry 2 people without any problems, but he still wanted to ask for confirmation. After all, he planned to take Xiaoqing to the marketplace in a few months. This iron feather eagle is a first-stage initial-level demon beast, not to mention 2 people. It can carry 3, however, with more people, the speed and endurance will both decrease, especially when traveling long distances, Lu Bo said so. He added, remember to take good care of this iron feather eagle. Feed it twice daily with ordinary raw meat, about 30 pounds per meal. Here is a bottle of spirit nourishing pills. If you're in a hurry and don't have time to feed it, just give it 1 spirit nourishing pill. Okay, I'm going back first. You can stay here and continue to train, get more used to it. From our Qingzhou mountain to 9 Dragons Market, it takes 2 full days of flight on the iron feather eagle. As Lu Bo spoke, he took out a porcelain bottle. Thank you, Lu Bo. Then I'll continue to get familiar here. Lu Changxing nodded in thanks, took the spirit nourishing pills, and after Lu Bo left, he leapt back onto the iron feather eagle to familiarize himself with flying. It was his first time flying, and he found it refreshingly fun. An hour later, Lu Changxing was more or less used to the iron feather eagle. He was able to stand directly on the eagle's back and clasp his hands behind him. The vigorous wind, softened by the wind-resisting effect of the vestment robe, turned into a gentle breeze that lightly moved his hair and robe, giving him an exceedingly dashing appearance. Feeling that he had about had enough, Lu Changxing let the iron feather eagle land and jumped off its back. If only I could switch to a white crane, it would look so much better. Looking at the iron feather eagle in front of him, Lu Changxing thought that with his appearance and temperament, it would be better if the iron feather eagle were a fairy crane. But having a flying mount was already good enough, and there was no need to ask for more. Practicality was paramount. Good looks were something to pursue only when conditions allowed. He put the iron feather eagle back into the spiritual pet bag and thought about the green-face sword given to him by the fourth elder. He tried to take it out and play with it. But without anything to use as a reference for attack, he couldn't really feel the sharpness of the green-face sword. A middle-grade magic artifact is a bit of a strain for me to use now, I can't wield it for long. After playing around for a while, Lu Changxing put the green-face sword away. The higher the quality of the magic artifact, the more spiritual power it consumed. At his current 4th level energy refinement, he could only wield a middle-grade flying sword. If he were given a high-grade flying sword, he wouldn't have the spiritual power to support it. Of course, this was normal, as the higher the quality of a flying sword, the greater its power. Lu Changxing didn't continue experimenting and returned the green-face sword to the storage bag, then headed home, thinking that after he went to the 9 Dragons market, he could sell the flying sword and flying daggers he had obtained at Bullhead Mountain for some money. Now that he had the green-face sword, he no longer needed those. As he reached his house, Lu Changxing turned on the spirit light effect on his vestment robe. Although this effect was very flashy, Lu Changxing had to admit that the spirit light indeed looked good, quite eye-catching. This time, heading home naturally meant showing off to his wives and concubines. Sure enough. The group of wives and concubines, seeing Lu Changxing in this attire, all had sparkling eyes and voiced their admiration. This gave Lu Changxing's masculine pride a nice boost of satisfaction. He thought to himself that on the trip to 9 Dragons market, he could also buy a vestment robe for each of his wives and children. That way, they wouldn't fear the change of the seasons. However, thinking of his numerous wives and children, even if it was just one robe per person, it would be too expensive for him. So he temporarily dismissed the idea. He decided to wait until he had more money and sold all his talismans before considering it. That night, a group of wives and concubines came to tenderly serve him, unanimously telling Lu Changxing not to remove his clothes. This made Lu Changxing internally sigh that men and women were indeed alike. But the magical robe was not afraid of being spoiled, and with the upcoming trip to 9 Dragons market and a long separation ahead, Lu Changxing obliged his wives and concubines' little request, indulging them thoroughly. 2 days later. All right, I'm off now. Miaoyun, if anything happens at home, just send a message to me. Lu Changxing, rubbing his slightly sore lower back, bid farewell to his wives. Husband, rest assured, your concubine will manage the household affairs properly. Lu Miaoyun hugged Lu Changxing affectionately and spoke softly. May your journey be smooth, husband. Husband, you must take care of yourself when you're alone outside. Husband, why not let your concubine accompany you? That way, you'll have someone to look after you. Husband, the other wives also spoke up, their expressions filled with reluctance. After many years of living together and having had several children, their affection for Lu Changxing was naturally deep. After all, aside from having married a few more, and his fondness for having children, Lu Changxing truly left nothing to be desired in terms of treating his wives and children, an absolute good man indeed. And in this world, having multiple wives and concubines was considered entirely normal. Besides, Lu Changxing only had a dozen or so, which couldn't be considered many. All right, it's not like I'm going to a faraway place. I'll come back whenever I can, so keep your spirits up, he reassured them. After bidding farewell to his wives and children, Lu Changxing headed to the main hall. He spoke to Lu Miaoge, who was dressed in white, her hair like a cascading waterfall, and her demeanor as elegant as a fairy. She was waiting silently while sipping tea. Sister Miaoge, let's go. Lu Miaoge nodded, stood up and walked out shoulder to shoulder with Lu Changxing. Husband and the eldest missus looked so well matched walking together. They both seemed to exude an air of immortality. Could it be that husband is going to the marketplace and working together with the eldest missus? What are you thinking, silly girl? Since husband has married Sister Miaoyun, how could he possibly be involved with the eldest missus? Several wives, watching Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge walk side by side like a perfect pair, felt a sense of crisis in their hearts. Seeing their figures walk away, Lu Miaoyun also became slightly lost in thought. Do you feel a bit reluctant to leave? Lu Miaoge could see a hint of reluctance on Lu Changsheng's face and said softly. A little bit, making Sister Miaoge laugh at me, he said with a nod. Although he could return every month, there was indeed a bit of reluctance in his heart this time departing. Perhaps, that's the taste of home, where there's always something to miss. This issue was raised by me and Madame Lu. We mentioned not having much time to manage the spiritual talisman shop, so that's why we're troubling you, Lu Miaoge said with a hint of apology. No problem, I also want to go out and have a look. One can't always stay inside without ever leaving. Lu Changxing laughed. Though he felt a bit of reluctance, it was just the sorrow of parting. It wasn't something too difficult to bear or too hard to let go of. The aspiration of a great man should be like the Yangtze River rushing eastward to the sea, and not linger in the soft land before one's eyes. His trip to the Nine Dragons Market was not only to manage the spiritual talisman shop but also for other matters. There's no need to elaborate on taking immortals and beauties as concubines. It was imperative to master the 100 refinements treasure body art. Otherwise, after a few more days of recent life, his back really wouldn't be able to withstand it. Moreover, Lu Changxing felt it was necessary to acquire a manual of bedroom techniques, a dual cultivation secret technique. Not to mention using it to enhance his cultivation level, at the very least, he could learn and improve his combat power, reducing deficits. The business of the spiritual talisman shop won't keep you busy. If you miss home, you can come back often. Besides, I will also be in the Nine Dragons Market for the coming period, so you can come back anytime if there's any matter, said Lu Miaoge, with a tone as gentle as water. All right, Lu Changxing nodded without saying much else. From Qingzhou Mountain to the Nine Dragons Market, the journey spans about 8,000 miles. However, if we ride the Iron Feather Eagles and fly straight north, we can reach the Nine Dragons Market in 2 days, she explained. Just have your Iron Feather Eagle follow mine, she said. After they left Qingzhou Mountain, Lu Miaoge released an Iron Feather Eagle from her spiritual pet bag, speaking in a gentle voice. The Iron Feather Eagle was likely a flying mount uniformly purchased or raised by the Lu family. All right, Lu Changxing nodded, also releasing the Iron Feather Eagle from his spiritual pet bag, and mounted it. Soon after, the 2 Iron Feather Eagles flapped their wings vigorously and quickly ascended into the sky, heading towards the Nine Dragons Market. There shouldn't be any unexpected dangers on the road, right? Lu Changxing thought to himself as Qingzhou Mountain grew smaller and smaller. It should be fine, the young miss goes back and forth every month without any incidents, he reassured himself. And with my talisman treasure and so many talismans by my side, as long as I don't encounter a Foundation Establishment great cultivator, there shouldn't be any problems. Lu Changxing shook his head, dismissing the fears and worries that came unbid. Chapter 69, Listing Thoughts _1 Today at noon, my book will be going live on the shelves. Since it's going live, naturally, I have to write some thoughts on launching. First of all, I very much appreciate the readers and big shots for following, and for the support for this book. As a newbie to writing, this being my first book, achieving such results is, to tell the truth, really surprising, quite unexpected. When I started writing this book, it was after finishing The Fast Food Gods, eternally evergreen in the world of cultivation. I found it very interesting, felt that Li Ergu was very well suited to be the protagonist, and had some regrets about the damsel in distress storyline, so I decided to use Li Ergu as the protagonist for my book. It so happened that there wasn't much going on at the factory at the end of the year, so I went home early for the new year, and, bored at home, I started writing just for fun. Now that we're going live, I naturally don't feel as casual as I did at the start, and am also somewhat nervous. Mainly, I don't have much confidence in what I'm going to write next, no basis for it. Perhaps screwing bolts day in and day out has numbed me, left me devoid of emotions. That results in me having no enthusiasm for anything I do. Even when writing the novel, I don't put much emotion into it, the whole process is lackluster and doesn't have any fancy face slapping. Then, there's the fact that I have no manuscripts in reserve, and I type slowly, which makes me anxious. To be honest, you might not believe this. I started writing this book in January, typing a few thousand words each day, but considering the relatives I'd have to visit over the new year, I kept holding off on releasing it until February, when I had accumulated 80,000 words. But now, I only have a few chapters left in reserve, which I saved last week. One reason is that I type slowly. Poking at the keys with 2 fingers gets me about 1,000 words in an hour, and when I'm stuck, I might dwell on it for hours. The second reason is that I excitedly published my book, but then I only had single-digit collections per day, no one commented, and I felt so discouraged that I didn't write at all for a week. If I hadn't had the few manuscripts saved up, I feel like I would have vanished into thin air. That feeling was truly agonizing. After that, I tried a few recommendations, got some achievements, and found the motivation to take things a bit more seriously, which made me a little afraid of loss, continuously revising the remaining manuscript over and over again. The chapters leading up to the book's launch, I've edited and modified extensively, going back and forth making several adjustments, which also caused delays in my typing and wasted a lot of my reserve drafts. All I can say is, writing a novel is a game of high aspirations and low abilities, and having an obsessive-compulsive disorder is truly problematic. Enough of the nonsense, let's talk about what happens after the launch. The book will go live precisely at noon, and at that time, I will release the few chapters I've saved up. Looking at it, there's a total of 12,000 words, which also meets the rule of 5 updates for a launch, and with what I continue to type today, reaching 15,000 won't be an issue. In any case, I will try to write as much as I can. Regarding additional updates, I'll do 1 extra chapter for every patron and 5 for each alliance leader, plus 1 for every 500 monthly tickets. That should be enough to motivate me, since I have no reserve and type slowly. I can't manage more than that anyway. As for the updates, I'm afraid of jinxing myself by promising too much, so I'll commit to at least 5,000 words. If the first day's performance is good, I'll try to do 7,000, and see if I can push myself not to be so idle. That's it. I thank all the readers and lords for your support, and every person who has voted for, rewarded, and commented on this fledgling author. I also hope that all the readers and lords will consider subscribing in support. Many thanks. Many thanks. Chapter 70, Sister Miauga, I've never been to this kind of place before. _1 2 days later. 2 iron feather eagles, like sharp swords, shuttled through the clouds and mist. Changsheng, the 9 Dragons Market is just ahead. Get ready to descend. Be careful not to collide with the market's formation, or you'll face an attack from the formation. Clad in a long white dress with raven black hair cascading over her fragrant snow-white shoulders, Lu Miauga sat elegantly upon an iron feather eagle, transmitting her voice to Lu Changsheng. Okay, Sister Miauga. Lu Changsheng nodded. He could already see the vast 9 Dragons Market ahead of him. Looking down from high above, the entire marketplace appeared to be even larger than Qingzhou Mountain, covering an estimated tens of thousands of acres. It was surrounded by 9 towering peaks, piercing the sky and forming an arch. This was also the origin of the name 9 Dragons Market. On the 9 peaks, one could see terraced fields filled with spirit plants, and around the marketplace, large tracts of spirit fields were cultivated. The interior of the marketplace was obscured by formations, appearing hazy, only allowing a general outline to be discerned, without clear details. As they neared 9 Dragons Market, the number of cultivators coming and going increased significantly. Some rode spiritual birds, some flew with magical instruments, and others steered flying boats. There were also quite a few mounted on demon beast steeds, sprinting across the land or escorting goods. This gave Lu Changsheng a sense of the intense atmosphere of cultivation. Having stayed within Qingzhou Mountain all this time, this was his first visit to such a cultivator's marketplace. The Bullhead Mountain back then was just a small gathering place for loose cultivators, not even a proper marketplace, and it lacked the atmosphere of cultivation. A moment later, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miauga safely landed their iron feather eagles next to the entrance of the 9 Dragons Market. While it was called a marketplace, it looked much like a city. It was much more magnificent than Rui County City, which he had visited before. The nearly 100-meter-tall walls of the city lay like a slumbering dragon, connecting and encircling the 9 protected peaks. There was a faint fluctuation of spiritual energy on the city walls, clearly marked with formations. Lu Changxing felt that the defensive formation of the 9 Dragons Market was an even higher level than that of Qingzhou Mountain. But that was to be expected. Qingzhou Mountain was a second-grade middle-grade spirit vein. The 9 Dragons Market was rumored to be a second-grade high-grade spirit vein with multiple branches, making it much larger than Qingzhou Mountain. Moreover, the 9 Dragons Market was established by the Qingyun sect, naturally equipped with great formations set by an array master. The two reached the entrance gatehouse. The gatehouse towered dozens of meters high, majestic and expansive, making one feel very small when standing before it. There were 2 Qingyun sect cultivators standing guard at the entrance, with a small pavilion nearby. Every cultivator entering the marketplace had to show an identity token. Without an identity token, one needed to register information and pay spirit stones to get one at the small pavilion. Lu Miaoge told Lu Changxing that the identity token came in temporary and long-term versions. The temporary one cost a single spirit stone and was only valid for half a month. The long-term fee was 10 spirit stones, valid for 2 years. Only those who bought a house in the marketplace or owned a shop could get a free living quota. If the identity token expired and was not renewed on time while one was still inside the marketplace, they would be captured by the Qingyun sect's enforcement team and fined spirit stones. And if they didn't have spirit stones to pay the fine, they would be arrested and put to work to repay the debt. This was also one of the main sources of profit for the establishment of the marketplace. Hearing this, Lu Changxing couldn't help but quietly sigh. No wonder many cultivators avoided coming to such large marketplaces. Although it was safer and more convenient than the outside, for lower-level cultivators, the entry fee was not a small amount. Moreover, after entering the marketplace, they would have to pay for food, lodging, and other expenses. As for buying a house or owning a shop in the marketplace, it was obviously very difficult without even thinking much about it. Indeed, cultivation is difficult, but survival is even harder. Afterwards, Lu Changxing followed the crowd and paid 10 spirit stones to get a long-term identity token. He could later seek reimbursement from the Lu family for these 10 spirit stones. With the identity token in hand, Lu Changxing followed Lu Miaoge into the 9 Dragons Market. Upon entering the city, a bustling street was immediately before his eyes. People were coming and going on the street, men, women, the elderly, and the young, almost all of them cultivators, with pavilions, towers, palaces, and houses lining both sides. The Qingyun sect has regulations: no fighting or causing trouble within the marketplace, arbitrarily setting up stalls, or sleeping on the streets overnight. Once discovered or reported, the enforcement team will come to punish the offender. Moreover, aside from the Qingyun sect's enforcers and foundation establishment great cultivators, ordinary energy refining cultivators are not allowed to fly with instruments or ride mounts or demon beasts within the marketplace. Lu Miaoge transmitted this information to Lu Changxing. Hearing this, Lu Changxing nodded. No wonder he didn't see anyone flying or riding mounts, they were all walking. His confidence in the security environment of the 9 Dragons Market grew. The 9 Dragons Market is divided into 5 areas: east, west, south, north, and center. The central area is also the core of the second-grade spirit vein and is where Qingyun sect disciples live and cultivate. Only a small portion of cave dwellings is open to outsiders. The eastern district is where some cultivator families and wealthy households reside. Our Lu family has a large compound there. You can also stay there if you like. The spiritual energy is between that of a first-grade and middle-grade spirit vein. The western district is where Lu's cultivators live. The conditions there are relatively worse, but it also has the standard of a first-grade spirit vein. The southern and northern districts are commercial and entertainment areas, with all sorts of inns, taverns, and shops for daily living needs located in these 2 districts. We are now in the northern district, and our Lu family's spiritual talisman shop is just ahead. Lu Miaoge guided Lu Changxing as they walked towards the center of the city, continuously introducing him to the details of the 9 Dragons Market. Chapter 71, Sister Miaoge, I've never been to this kind of place before. Lu Changxing nodded as he listened. It was the first time he had heard Lu Miaoge talk so much. However, he also knew that Lu Miaoge was just a person of few words by nature, usually quiet and seemingly aloof from worldly matters, but actually quite amiable. It was for this reason that she had brought him to Nine Dragons Marketplace, knowing that he was a stranger to this place, and thus she provided such detailed introductions. As they walked along the road, Lu Changxing constantly looked towards the pavilions and lofty buildings on both sides of the street. Drunk Immortal Pavilion, Gathering of Immortals Pavilion, Myriad Treasures Pavilion, Elixir Cauldron Pavilion, 100 Refinement Workshop, Jinxiu Workshop. Through the names on the signboards of these pavilions and halls, one could vaguely guess their purposes. Seeing the Drunk Immortal Pavilion with red lanterns hung high and faint sounds of music drifting out, Lu Changxing felt it didn't seem like a proper tavern. Changxing, you're a married man now, better to avoid such places. Not only do they waste money, but they can also affect your cultivation, Lu Miaoge said softly with a hint of shyness in her voice as she saw Lu Changxing looking at the Drunk Immortal Pavilion. Hearing this, the corner of Lu Changxing's mouth twitched. He instantly understood what kind of place the Drunk Immortal Pavilion was. No wonder he vaguely heard sounds of giggling women. He hadn't misheard after all. Indeed, fairies were not only in the mortal world but also in private rooms. Sister Miaoge, I was just wondering why that tavern looked odd, so I took a second glance. I never visit such places, Lu Changxing said, straightening up earnestly. He genuinely had no interest in such places. He was a man with 5 wives, 6 concubines, 2 favored courtesans, and a handmaid. Why would he need to frequent such spots? Even though he constantly thought of taking concubines, specifically fairies, to have his children, he would never go there to persuade a celestial maiden to lead an honest life. Wouldn't that be insane? But the young miss apparently knew about such places. No surprise there, she might not seem of this world, but she is 6 years older than himself. Having frequented the marketplace over the years and managed shops, she could hardly be a completely naive young girl. That's good, then. Lu Miaoge slightly pursed her lips and responded indifferently, not elaborating on the subject. Then she continued to introduce some information to Lu Changxing. Thus, as they talked and walked, almost a quarter of an hour passed, and Lu Miaoge stopped in front of a shop. She said to Lu Changxing, "This is our Lu family's spiritual talisman shop." Lu Changxing looked at the shop in front of him. The shop was a 3-story structure in line with the main street, about 6 zhang high, with carved beams and painted rafters, resplendent yet not gaudy. A signboard reading Qing Zhu Lu's spiritual talisman shop hung above. Shopkeeper. At the entrance of the shop, a youthful girl around 17 or 18, pretty and wearing a work outfit marked with Qing Zhu Lu's spiritual talisman shop, greeted Lu Miaoge with a grace. Then her gaze involuntarily shifted to Lu Changxing by her side, drawn by his handsome appearance and his gentle, jade-like demeanor. Lu Miaoge gave a nod of acknowledgement, cold but polite. She explained to Lu Changxing through a message that this was a receptionist and salesperson for the shop. Currently, the spiritual talisman shop had 1 shopkeeper, 2 apprentices, and 2 receptionist salespersons. The shopkeeper, named Zhang Shan, was a 6th-level energy refinement cultivator who had been working at Lu's spiritual talisman shop for over 10 years. The 2 apprentices, named Li Shi and Wang Wu, had been at the shop for 5 or 6 years. They were descendants of cultivators from Nine Dragons Marketplace with only 9th-grade spiritual roots, but had some talent in talisman making, which led their families to send them to the spiritual talisman shop as apprentices. Their daily work involved drawing talismans and making talisman paper and spiritual ink. The 4th elder who mentioned guiding the apprentices was referring to these 2. Such apprentices were bound by a long-term contract, only requiring food and accommodation, and occasional guidance in talisman making sufficed, without even needing a monthly salary. Learning skills was just like this. Whether it was talisman making, alchemy, artifact refining, every high-threshold skill required perseverance. Even if one didn't succeed in the end, no one could be blamed. As for the 2 receptionist salespeople, they were mortals. Although Nine Dragons Marketplace was a cultivator's marketplace, not everyone there was a cultivator, and many were mortals. Some had come here following cultivators, while others were descendants of cultivators, working and living here. Living in the marketplace was not easy, but as long as they could find a job, even mortals could survive. They could even save up a spirit stone or two. After all, if one made gold and silver in the common world, in Nine Dragons Marketplace, they earned spirit stones. He Lu, come inside for a moment. I have something to talk to you about. Lu Miaoge glanced at the young woman, then walked into the shop with Lu Changxing in tow. The shop was roughly 200 square meters, furnished very simply, with exquisite counters on both sides and in the center, displaying various talismans, as well as talisman paper, spiritual ink, talisman brushes, and other talisman-related items. Shopkeeper. Shopkeeper. In the hall, there was a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s, with a lean face, and a young girl in work attire. Upon seeing Lu Miaoge and Lu Changxing, they bowed and saluted. Uncle Zhang, call Li Shi and Wang Wu over, I have something to tell you all, Lu Miaoge directed at the lean-faced middle-aged man. Yes, Zhang Shan responded and went to the inner chamber. In a moment, he returned with two women around 20, pretty, and dressed in Qing Zhu Lu's spiritual talisman shop work outfits. Though they were cultivators, their cultivation levels were not high, just at the second or third level of qi refinement. This is Lu Changxing, a middle-grade talisman master of our Lu family. From now on, as I won't have time to manage the shop, Changxing will oversee it. He is now the second master of the shop. Chapter 72, Sister Miaoge, I've never been to this kind of place before. Uncle Zhang, from now on, for any matters concerning the store, you can report directly to Changxing. Li Shi, Wang Wu, if you have any issues, also report directly to the second master. Once everyone had arrived, Lu Miaoge addressed the group. Her tone was cool and brisk, carrying a trace of decisiveness. This let Lu Changxing see another side of the young miss he didn't often witness. In usual interactions with Lu Miaoge, she always appeared detached and refined, with a temperament like water, never quite like this. The five individuals, upon hearing this, were all somewhat surprised and looked at Lu Changxing in astonishment. They had not expected that this handsome and spirited young man would be a middle-grade talisman master. Their new boss in the future. Zhang Shan has met the second master. Li Shi has met the second master. Wang Wu has met the second master. He Lu has met the second master. Sun Qi has met the second master. The five people didn't think much and immediately saluted with their hands. Surprise and astonishment in their eyes were replaced by envy, admiration, respect, and yearning. A middle-grade talisman master, no matter where, could lead a comfortable life. Especially after they heard the name Lu Changxing and surname Lu. They subconsciously thought he was a scion of the Qing Zhu Lu family. Coming to take over the shop was just for experience and to familiarize himself with life. Handsome, talented, and from a good family, it was truly enviable. Especially for Li Shi, Wang Wu, and the two sales attendants, the way they looked at Lu Changxing had changed. I'll be troubling you all from now on. Lu Changxing smiled at everyone and slightly bowed his hands. Lu Miaoge had talked to him about the shop before coming. The shop's day-to-day affairs were generally well managed by shopkeeper Zhang Shan, and he didn't need to worry too much. Aside from guiding Li Shi and Wang Wu in talisman making, his main task was to watch over the inventory. The spiritual talisman shop needed to restock its inventory every month. These goods, naturally, could not all rely on the Lu family alone. Superior grade, and even supreme talismans, were mostly drawn by the fourth elder. However, basic talismans and lower to middle grade talismans were mostly acquired from various loose cultivator talisman masters. Although these loose cultivators had cooperated with the Lu family for many years, in terms of quality, it still required the oversight of a talisman master like him, to prevent the issue of inferior quality being passed off as good quality. After all, the items sold in such shops generally cost more than those on loose cultivators' stalls. This increase in price was a guarantee of quality. Materials like talisman paper, spirit ink, and talisman brushes were no exception. Furthermore, Sometimes when the shop was out of a certain type of talisman and a customer urgently needed one, he, as a talisman master, would do his best to draw one if he could. After introducing Lu Changxing to the employees, Lu Miaoge didn't say much more and let everyone disperse. She took out a stack of talismans from her storage bag and handed them to Zhang Shan. All were first-grade middle and superior talismans. Every month when she returned, in addition to guidance from the fourth elder in talisman making, she would also bring back a batch of talismans from him. Lu Miaoge told Lu Changxing that in addition to some middle and superior grade talismans, the fourth elder would also draw 3 first-grade supreme talismans every month. These were the treasures of the spiritual talisman shop, the backbone of their establishment. However, she would not give these 3 supreme talismans to Zhang Shan. Instead, she kept them on her person. If someone wanted them, she would conduct the transaction in person. Afterward, she took Lu Changxing on a tour of the shop and introduced him to its situation. The shop had 3 floors. The first floor housed the sales hall, a reception room, and a small courtyard in the back. The second floor was where Li Shi and Wang Wu worked and rested. The third floor was designated for the boss Lu Miaoge to rest and sleep, equipped with a living room, bedroom, lounge, talisman room, and storage room. The third floor had restrictions set up, and one needed a token to enter. Then, Lu Miaoge told Lu Changxing that she rarely stayed there. If Lu Changxing found it inconvenient to stay at the Lu family's Eastern District mansion, he could also stay here. Lu Changxing was indifferent. He expressed his preference to first stay at the Lu family mansion in the Eastern District. Having come to Nine Dragons Market, he thought it appropriate to make a visit there. Before coming, the fourth elder had told him that the Nine Dragons Market was not limited to just one spiritual talisman shop, but also included other Lu family businesses. The second elder of the Lu family was in charge of the Lu family's marketplace affairs, and he usually resided in the Nine Dragons Market. He informed him that should he need anything, he could also directly seek out the second elder. So naturally, having arrived, he should pay a visit. This was the way of the family, with many social obligations. Otherwise, he would appear too aloof and asocial. Sister Miaoge, it's getting late, may I treat you to a meal? You'll be burdened with helping me in the days to come, otherwise I'd feel guilty. After taking a tour of the shop with Lu Miaoge and finishing the handover, Lu Changxing spoke to her. Sure, let's just have something nearby. Lu Miaoge didn't refuse and gave a slight nod. I haven't eaten anything good these 2 days, and I feel like there's no taste in my mouth at all. I've been looking forward to a good meal today, how could I settle for something casual? Sister Miaoge, what's good to eat around here? Lu Changxing spoke directly. Then let's go to Jade Meal Pavilion next door, I've eaten there several times and the food is very good, Lu Miaoge said thoughtfully. Then let's go, Lu Changxing nodded. Consequently, the two descended the stairs. At that moment, there were customers in the store examining talisman brushes, with an attendant providing detailed explanations. Even though the attendant was a commoner, they were trained and knew these items inside out. Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge didn't linger, gave a slight nod to shopkeeper Zhang Shan to signal their departure, and left the shop. They arrived at a place not too far away, the Jade Meal Pavilion that Lu Miaoge had mentioned. Chapter 73, I am willing to be a concubine for my master. _1 The facade of Jade Meal Pavilion appeared quite ordinary, decorated with simple and modest elegance, not as impressive as the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. But the business inside was booming, not even mealtime yet, and it was already more than half full. After finding a place to sit down, Lu Miaoge ordered 2 dishes and 2 servings of spirit rice from the server. Seeing this, Lu Changxing couldn't help but smile. Sister Miaoge, there's no need to be frugal on my account, I've managed to save some spirit stones over the years. His living conditions had improved over the past 6 months. As a result, he had saved quite a few spirit stones. Before heading out, he counted them, a total of 306. He left 30 spirit stones at home for family expenses, and brought the rest with him. So treating Lu Miaoge to a meal didn't mean he had to pinch pennies. 2 dishes are enough for us to eat, more would be a waste, Lu Miaoge said with a light smile. Over the last 6 months, they had become quite familiar with each other while studying talisman making under the fourth elder. That light smile of hers was no longer distant as it was initially, just a polite smile, appearing much more natural. "All right," Lu Changxing replied, not saying much else. It wasn't long before the server brought a basin-sized water lily to their table. The water lily bud opened on its own, revealing 2 dishes and 2 bowls of crystal-clear spirit rice inside, steaming hot and emanating a fragrant aroma. This carp soup is their signature dish, made with red blood carp from the Yu family of Bai Lake Mountain. "I order it every time I come here, you should try it," Lu Miaoge pointed out, referring to a dish that was a feast for the senses. Red blood carp from the Yu family of Bai Lake Mountain? Is this restaurant owned by the Yu family of Bai Lake Mountain? Lu Changxing asked in surprise upon hearing this. The Yu family of Bai Lake Mountain was also a major cultivation family under the jurisdiction of the Qingyan sect. With 3 foundation establishment great cultivators in their family, they were 1 level above the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain. The red blood carp was a specialty of Bai Lake Mountain. It was somewhat similar to the green jade bamboo wine and emerald spirit rice of Qingzhou Mountain. The owner of this restaurant married a woman from the Yu family of Bai Lake Mountain, which is why they can consistently get a batch of red blood carp from the Yu family every month, Lu Miaoge explained softly. "I see," Lu Changxing nodded, not asking further, and sampled the carp soup. Immediately, he felt a rich yet not greasy delicious taste spread from his mouth to his stomach, then to his abdomen, and finally to his brain, leaving a long-lasting aftertaste. "Delicious." Lu Changxing couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. He thought he had become accustomed to exotic delicacies at the Lu family, but this carp soup was indeed exceptional. "So the chef here is also a spirit cooking master?" Lu Changxing inquired. While the red blood carp was a type of spirit fish, such flavor couldn't be achieved without a spirit cooking master. "Correct, the chef here is the owner of the restaurant, and he is a spirit cooking master. The prices here are more affordable compared to other places, so the business is always good," Lu Miaoge said in a soft voice. She then pointed to the other dish. "This earth mole meat also tastes excellent and counts as one of their specialties." Lu Changxing tried a piece of the meat, finding it crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, juicy, smooth, and invigorating, and he couldn't help but reach for another piece. Nodding in approval, he said, "Tasty." At that moment, he noticed Lu Miaoge wasn't eating but was simply watching him enjoy his meal. He promptly said, "Sister Miaoge, why aren't you eating? Let's eat together." "Okay," Lu Miaoge nodded gently, and only then did she pick up her chopsticks and begin to eat the earth mole meat. Her manner of eating was very elegant, yet she ate quite swiftly. Lu Changxing had only had a few bites when she had already eaten 7 or 8. By the time Lu Changxing had eaten less than half of his bowl of rice, Lu Miaoge was finished. Lu Changxing was somewhat astonished at this sight. Hard to believe that Lu Miaoge, a woman as ethereal as a fairy, could eat at such a pace. "I normally eat quite fast," Lu Miaoge, feeling somewhat impolite and embarrassed, blushed on her flawlessly exquisite face. It's fine, it's just that I'm a slow eater," Lu Changxing chuckled, feeling that the young lady before him suddenly seemed even more charming and much more approachable. Indeed, there are not so many pristinely untouchable fairy maidens in the world, it's just that the great difference between 2 people makes one seem unattainable, creating such a perception, an illusion. When the relationship becomes intimate and you spend time together, things turn out to be quite normal. He immediately gestured for the server to add 2 more dishes and some more rice. "No need, I'm full," Lu Miaoge said upon seeing this, taking out a handkerchief to gently wipe her mouth. "All right," Lu Changxing replied, not insisting, and then finished the rest of the food and went to pay the bill. 2 dishes and 2 servings of spirit rice came to a total of 4 spirit stones. No wonder Lu Miaoge only ordered 2 dishes, because indeed the price was somewhat expensive. When he first joined the Lu family, he earned only 2 spirit stones a month. Now had spent 4 spirit stones on a single meal. However, Lu Changxing wasn't too heartbroken about it. He felt the price was fairly reasonable. The carp soup and earth mole meat were both spirit food, and even the rice was spirit rice, which would be nourishing to the body after eating. he could still feel the spiritual energy flowing slowly through his dantian and meridians. And besides, the process of savoring delicious food was deeply satisfying, very pleasant. Just then, having seen how adorable Lu Miaoge ate, he thought that in the future, when there was no pressing matter, he might often invite Lu Miaoge out to eat, to build a closer relationship. But now, thinking it over, he decided against it. His current financial situation simply didn't allow for it. Maybe after he had sold all his talismans and turned them into spirit stones, it would have been more feasible. Sister Miaoge, is there a place in the Nine Dragons market where loose cultivators set up stalls for trading? Chapter 74, I am willing to be a concubine for my master. Lu Chongqing inquired Lu Miaoge. On this trip, he also thought of selling talismans and buying the heavenly and earthly treasures for cultivation of the 100 refinements treasure body art. So he thought of first going to see the loose cultivators' stalls. At the junction of the Western District and the Southern District, there are several streets specifically set aside for people to set up stalls and trade freely. Although the items there are cheaper than in the shops, there are many scams, and there's hardly any chance of getting a good deal by stumbling upon something undervalued. If you're looking to buy something, it's still best to make purchases from legitimate shops. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoge guessed Lu Changsheng's intent and voiced a reminder. I'm just curious about this kind of stall setup, want to take a look and gain some experience, Lu Changsheng said with a smile. He wasn't holding out hope for any treasures or particularly cheap bargains. After all, these loose cultivators are all too shrewd, having struggled at the bottom, without certain means. How could one expect to find a bargain from their hands? In the midst of talking, the two returned to the spiritual talisman shop. Sister Lu. At that moment, a childish voice rang out. Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoge heard the voice and looked over. In front of them, a dignified-looking young matron with a graceful figure and full-bodied stature, holding a 3- or 4-year-old girl in her arms and carrying a lunchbox, was walking in their direction. It was the small girl in the young matron's arms who was waving to Lu Miaoge and calling out. Master, this young matron wore a plain goose yellow dress, her black glossy hair arranged in a married woman's bun, slanted with an ebony hairpin, giving her a demure and graceful appearance. Upon seeing Lu Miaoge, she also quickened her pace, slightly bowed, and called out softly. Her face might not be exceptionally beautiful, merely fair, with arched eyebrows, crimson lips and almond eyes, and a pert nose, exuding a mature charm. But her skin was very white, whether it was the fair complexion of her cheeks or the skin exposed at the neck, all was snowy white and delicate, soft and pliant to the touch. This creamy white skin, combined with her voluptuous and curvaceous figure, made the young matron look like a ripe peach, giving off a sense of fullness and juiciness. Aunt Bai, Nan Nan, came to deliver a meal to Uncle Zhang. Lu Miaoge obviously knew the two, and greeted them with a slight smile and a nod. She conveyed to Lu Chongsheng, this is Zhang Shan's wife and daughter, they come to deliver meals to him every day. Zhang Shan inside the spiritual talisman shop also saw his wife and child arriving and immediately got up and hurried out. First, he gave a slight bow to Lu Miaoge and Lu Chongsheng nearby, then explained, Second Master, this is my wife, coming to bring me a meal. No worries, Lu Chongsheng said with a smile. He knew the latter's explanation was out of concern that the new co-owner might have objections. Such matters, of course, he didn't mind and would not say anything. It just hadn't occurred to him that Zhang Shan seemed to be 50 years old, yet his wife was not only a cultivator but also so young, and their child was only 3 or 4 years old. But on second thought, this was quite normal. Most cultivators were older when they chose to start a family and have children. Moreover, although the woman appeared mature and charming, seemingly in her late 20s, her actual age was not necessarily so. After all, most female cultivators would buy youth-preserving pills, beauty-preserving pills. Like Lu Miaoge, she obviously had taken beauty-preserving pills. Compared to when Lu Chongqing first met her 5 years ago, she looked almost the same, still retaining the appearance of a 20-year-old. This made Lu Chongqing think about buying beauty-preserving pills for his own wives as well. He practiced the Immortal beauty technique, which not only enhanced his charm but also preserved his youthful appearance forever. But his wives could not, and aside from Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjun who were able to practice cultivation, all the others were mortals who would age. However, thinking of the price of the beauty-preserving pills and the need to give gifts, he would have to give more than 10 gifts at once. Lu Changxing could only temporarily dismiss the idea. Lu Miaoge didn't chat much with Zhang Shan either, merely nodding slightly, her expression cool as she led Lu Changxing to the third floor. She usually stayed on the third floor, either cultivating and resting or drawing talismans, rarely on the first floor. Now, the third floor had an additional person, Lu Changxing. However, Lu Miaoge and Lu Changxing were quite familiar with each other and didn't mind sharing a room alone. At this time, Lu Miaoge also told Lu Changxing that although Zhang Shan was an old employee of the shop, he couldn't appear too familiar with him. If they were too close, it would make it difficult to manage later on. Lu Changxing naturally understood this principle and nodded in agreement. Afterward, Lu Miaoge shared with Lu Changxing some shop matters and management experience. These were all simple and easy to understand experiences, most of which Lu Changxing already knew. He had never eaten pork before, but he had seen pigs run. In his past life under the baptism of big data, he knew quite a bit about the art of managing people. Of course, knowing is one thing, doing is another matter altogether. Sister Miaoge, I used to think you were the kind indifferent to worldly affairs, but I didn't expect you to know so much. It's like getting to know you all over again. After listening to Lu Miaoge, Lu Changxing joked with a laugh. Today he surely saw another side of Lu Miaoge, so the conversation was much less restrained than before. Hearing this, Lu Miaoge couldn't help but smile, her beauty blossoming like a celestial flower, captivating. I don't know whether to take your words as a compliment or an insult, but I'll just assume it's a compliment. With painted brows and eyes, Lu Miaoge said with a soft smile, all right, I have to go make talismans. You can go to the lounge to rest, or cultivate. Normally, there's not much to do at the shop, and Zhang Shan and the others will notify us if anything comes up. Having said so, Lu Miaoge stood up and went to the talisman room to focus on talisman making. Lu Changxing nodded and went to the lounge to rest. Chapter 75, I am willing to be a concubine for my master. After all, they had been traveling for the past 2 days and hadn't really rested. Although they couldn't be considered extremely tired, they still needed to recover their mental spirit through sleep. After a short nap, Lu Changxing saw that Lu Miaoge was still in the talisman room, feeling somewhat bored, so he found something to do and went upstairs. He wanted to check on the talisman-making skills of Li Shi and Wang Wu and planned to give them some guidance on talisman crafting. He possessed the second-rank talisman-making skill given by the system, so his foundational knowledge in talismans was incredibly solid. It was definitely not comparable to those who relied on their self-study and understanding. Not to mention guiding 2 talisman apprentices, even his own grandmother, the 4th elder of the Lu family, a first-grade top-level talisman master, could receive a pointer or 2 from him. Second master. Second master. In the upstairs workroom, Li Shi and Wang Wu, who were making talisman paper, immediately brightened up when they saw Lu Changxing coming over, stopped their work and called out sweetly. Their voices involuntarily softened a few degrees more than usual. I've come to see how you are progressing with your talisman making, to give you some guidance. Lu Changxing said aloud. Both women were rather good-looking, not incredibly beautiful, but they could definitely be considered pretty. After all, they were the descendants of cultivators, so the genetic aspect was generally not bad. However, he didn't have any particular thoughts about the 2 women in front of him. Although he did want to find a woman with a spiritual root to have children, it was not to the extent of asking any woman he met to bear his children. Moreover, he had just arrived at the shop and hadn't done much. It wouldn't look good if he started making moves on an apprentice. It would not only affect Lu Miaoge and the 4th elder's impression of him, but his reputation, which had just started to improve in the Lu family, would be ruined again. It was unnecessary and not worth it. Thank you, second master. Second master, please have a seat. The 2 women looked at Lu Changxing, said in their sweet voices, and prepared the chair and brewed the tea. What talismans have you learned so far? Lu Changxing waved his hand and asked. Immediately, the 2 women started to list the talismans they knew. They had been at the spiritual talisman shop for 5 or 6 years and had mastered about a dozen to 20 basic talismans. This was also because, as apprentices, they had to create profits for the shop, so they needed to learn a variety of different talismans. Although basic talismans didn't make much money, as a spiritual talisman shop, it was necessary to have a sufficient variety of talismans. Okay, show me the talismans you have been practicing lately by drawing them for me. Lu Changxing nodded and instructed. Both women immediately took out their talisman brushes, talisman paper, and spirit ink to start the talisman making process. Pfft! At this moment, Li Shi, while halfway through the drawing, failed, and the talisman paper emitted blue smoke. She became somewhat flustered and stuttered to Lu Changxing, "Second master, I'm sorry, I got a bit nervous." She was normally very cheerful, but in front of Lu Changxing, she couldn't help but feel a touch of nervousness. What's there to be nervous about? I'm not some flood or beast, and I certainly don't eat people. If you fail, just continue, that's all. Lu Changxing couldn't help but smile and waved his hand. Upon hearing Lu Changxing's comforting words and seeing his smile, a blush spread across Li Shi's pretty face, making it hard for her to breathe, and her heart raced. There were many handsome men in the world, but how many were handsome, came from a good family background, and were also a middle-grade talisman master? At least Li Shi hardly ever came across such men in her daily life, so Lu Changxing's smile made her heart flutter more than usual, and her nervousness intensified. Why is your face turning red like a teapot? Lu Changxing saw that her face was red, with a love-struck expression, and was momentarily at a loss for words. I haven't even done anything, and you're already like this? Unknowingly, has my charm become so great? Lu Changxing couldn't help but sigh inwardly. He also suddenly realized that he was no longer his former self. Not only was he handsome, but he was also wealthy and accomplished at a young age. Humph, such a mundane woman. Lu Changxing restrained his smile, his expression indifferent, and he said evenly, "Continue." At that moment, he vaguely understood why Lu Miaoge didn't like to smile and always had an aloof, otherworldly demeanor. This was the trouble of being good-looking. "Yes, second master." Li Shi, hearing these words, quickly nodded, immediately focused her mind, not daring to look too much at Lu Changxing, and started to draw talismans again. Lu Changxing could tell that the two women had a solid foundation in basic talismans. They were almost ready to try drawing lower-grade talismans. However, he had no immediate plans to teach the two women how to do so. Once they started learning to draw lower-grade talismans, most of their time and energy would be consumed in that endeavor. This would undoubtedly interfere with their current work. Better to have the two women continue to lay the foundation until they were completely solid, and then try lower-grade talismans. Soon after, Lu Changxing, with a detached manner, gave the two women pointers on talisman making. The two apprentices felt that this second master explained things more thoroughly and understandably than the senior master, proving extremely beneficial to them. That's enough, practice more on your own during your free time. Wait a while longer, and if you perform well, they'll teach you lower-grade talismans. After drawing them a proverbial carrot, Lu Changxing left the second floor. He could clearly sense that, despite his indifferent demeanor, he couldn't deter the two women's enthusiasm at all. He estimated that with just a wave of his hand, the two apprentices would take the initiative to come forward. Yet, he still had no such intentions. It was still the same reasoning as before, it wasn't necessary and the cost wouldn't be worth the benefit. Speaking of which, does this count as peach blossom luck? Lu Changxing suddenly thought. Thank you, second master. Thank you, second master. The two women, hearing his words, were overwhelmed with joy, and their eyes seemed to brim with tears as they looked at Lu Changxing. Handsome, from a good family, and a middle-grade talisman master, he was the man of their dreams. If only I could marry the second master, Li Shi murmured after Lu Changxing's retreating figure had disappeared. You silly girl, smitten much? Is your heart aflutter? Wang Wu teased. With the second master being so handsome and speaking so kindly, and also as a middle-grade talisman master, don't you like him? Li Shi said defiantly in response to Wang Wu's teasing. Of course I like him, but what good is liking him? We're not worthy of the second master. I'd even be content to marry him as a concubine, Wang Wu said with the same conviction. Li Shi felt a bit disheartened upon hearing this. In the cultivation world where men outnumbered women, young female cultivators were highly prized. People like them naturally had suitors, and many came knocking to propose. But they both had some talent in talisman making, and a future as elementary talisman masters loomed. Once they became talisman masters, even if only elementary, they could expect to marry into a respectable household. But now, before Lu Changsheng, the thought of marriage made them feel inferior. Chapter 76, Meeting the Second Miss Again. Chinggu takes you to read books and taste tea. _1 After coming down from the second floor, Lu Changsheng arrived at the first floor to check the items for sale in the shop. He looked to see if there was anything he wanted. On this trip, he also wanted to buy a magic artifact drawing pen and some supreme talisman paper and supreme spirit ink. While at the third level energy refinement stage, Lu Changsheng had attempted to draw superior grade talismans. But limited by his cultivation level and talisman making tools, his success rate was very low. He only drew a dozen or so to carry with him for emergencies. Not long ago, after breaking through to the fourth level energy refinement, he tried drawing superior grade talismans again, which was still somewhat difficult. He could only draw a few simpler superior grade talismans. And the success rate was only about 40 to 50%. For other talisman masters, this success rate was already quite remarkable. But in Lu Changsheng's view, it was still lacking. Therefore, he thought of buying a better magic artifact pen, and then some supreme quality talisman paper and spirit ink. This way, not only could his success rate improve, but he would also be confident in drawing the more challenging superior grade talismans. Whether heads sell the talismans was another matter. At least having more superior grade talismans on hand would give him an extra sense of security. Otherwise, what would he do if he encountered unforeseen dangers while traveling between Nine Dragons Market and Qingzhou Mountain? Lu Changsheng began to check the items for sale in the shop. Most of the talismans for sale were of the lower grade, primarily. Then there were basic talismans and middle grade talismans, as well as a few superior grade talismans. In addition to spirit talismans, the shop didn't only have drawing pens, talisman paper, and spirit ink, but also some related raw materials and books on talismans. Then, he looked at the prices of the magic artifact pens, supreme talisman paper, and supreme spirit ink at the talisman making tool counter. Lower grade magical instrument pens, 70 spirit stones. Middle grade magical instrument pens, 200 spirit stones. Superior grade magical instrument pens, 600 spirit stones. Supreme talisman paper comes in different qualities, divided into fine quality and good quality. Fine quality, 50 spirit stones per stack, 10 sheets. Good quality, 30 spirit stones per stack, 10 sheets. Supreme spirit ink also comes in different qualities, divided into fine quality and good quality. Fine quality, 50 spirit stones per box. Good quality, 30 spirit stones per box. So expensive, Lu Changsheng said, unable to help clicking his tongue as he looked at the prices. He had felt quite wealthy before. But looking at the prices, he suddenly realized he was quite poor, especially poor. After buying a middle-grade magical instrument pen, he wouldn't have much left. For my current needs, a middle-grade magical instrument pen is enough, he said. Moreover, unlike ordinary pens, a magical instrument pen is very durable, can be used thousands of times, and I don't need to worry too much about it being damaged, he added. Lu Changsheng stroked his chin, planning to purchase a middle-grade magical instrument pen. After all, such an item could be used for a long time once bought. As for the price of talisman paper and spirit ink, he thought they were quite reasonable, not too expensive. After all, a superior grade talisman could sell for 30 to 50 spirit stones. And a supreme talisman could sell for more than 200 spirit stones. However, being able to sell at such prices was also because of the barriers and difficulties involved. Like Fourth Elder, being a first-grade top-level talisman master, he only sells 3 supreme talismans per month, also due to the high failure rate. After deducting the time and material costs, the profit is limited. Not everyone is like Lu Changxing, who has a knack for talisman making, as easy as eating and drinking. I'm not in a hurry. Right now, I need the spirit stones to purchase the materials for the 100 Refinements treasure body art. I'll go to Southwest Street tomorrow to see, he said. I'll see if there are any materials suitable for the 100 Refinements treasure body art and if I can sell some talismans to make some money, Lu Changxing mused to himself. He then asked the shopkeeper, Zhang Shan, about the cost price for items like the magical instrument pens, supreme talisman paper, and spirit ink. Zhang Shan didn't hide the information and told the truth. The cost price for a lower-grade magical instrument pen is 43 spirit stones. The cost price for a middle-grade magical instrument pen is 139 spirit stones, and for a superior-grade magical instrument pen, it is 500 spirit stones. Because the Lu family didn't have an artifact refiner, these were purchased from other places to sell. About the talisman paper and spirit ink, fine quality was made by the Lu family themselves, good quality was both self-made and outsourced using provided materials, and Zhang Shan wasn't clear about the cost. After hearing this, Lu Changxing nodded, deciding to take a middle-grade magical instrument pen from the shop at cost price when the time came. Then, he inquired about the shop's daily revenue, sales, which talismans sold well, and the prices and quantities of talismans bought from other places, among other things. Lu Changxing had an idea in mind. If he were to be fully responsible for managing the shop in the future, could he possibly sell all the talismans he had through this shop? For these queries, Zhang Shan responded truthfully, giving Lu Changxing a good understanding of the spiritual talisman shop. He learned that the business of the spiritual talisman shop was quite good in Nine Dragons Market, generating several thousand spirit stones in revenue each month. It seems that the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop does better business than I imagined, Lu Changxing thought to himself after gathering the information. After chatting with Zhang Shan for a while, Lu Changxing didn't continue to ask more questions. He returned to the third floor's rest room, found Lu Miaoge still in the talisman room, and began to meditate and cultivate. As dusk approached, Lu Miaoge came out from the talisman room. She told Lu Changxing that this was the time when they could usually head home. Although Nine Dragons Market didn't have a curfew, the place would be much quieter at night. After all, cultivators still needed to cultivate and rest. And with Li Shi and Wang Wu living in the shop, they could help keep an eye on things. Afterward, Lu Miaoge took Lu Changxing to the Lu family mansion in the Eastern District. Chapter 77, Meeting the Second Miss Again, Qingge takes you to read books and taste tea. From here, it was quite a distance to the Lu family's large compound in the Eastern District. The two of them walked quite fast, and it took almost half an hour. The Lu family's compound covered nearly 2,000 square meters. Compared to the living quarters at Qingzhou Valley, it was naturally much smaller. But in the Nine Dragons Market, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, this courtyard was already considered large. Lu Changxing curiously inquired about how many spirit stones such a large compound would cost from Lu Miaoge. Lu Miaoge was not sure about the exact price. She only said that such large compounds usually started with a lease term of 3 to 5 years. As for the price, it varied from several dozen to 100 spirit stones a year. Hearing this, Lu Changxing couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. Just the annual rent would cost dozens to hundreds of spirit stones. For buying, wouldn't it require several thousand spirit stones? Indeed, no matter where you were, buying a house was never easy. Upon arriving at the compound, Lu Miaoge asked the house steward if the second elder was home. Now that she brought Lu Changxing over, it was natural to meet this second elder of the Lu family. The steward indicated that the second elder was resting in the back courtyard, and led the two to meet the second elder. Shortly after, Lu Changxing saw the second elder of the Lu family. He had white hair but his complexion was very rosy and lustrous, as if he was a baby. A tall figure dressed in a green robe, he leaned on a jade bamboo cane, exuding an imposing aura without being angry. This second elder was in charge of the Lu family business, often abroad. This was the first time Lu Changxing had met him. Second elder. Great uncle. Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge bowed to the second elder in unison. The second elder nodded, stood up to look at Lu Changxing, and with a slight smile said, so you are Changxing. At such a young age you have already become a middle-grade talisman master, very good. From now on, in the Nine Dragons Market, if you need anything, you can come directly to me, he said. The second elder's generous palm patted Lu Changxing on the shoulder as he spoke. Yes, second elder, replied Lu Changxing, bowing respectfully. Afterward, the second elder had the steward arrange a room for Lu Changxing. He also mentioned that there would be a banquet in the evening to welcome and cleanse him from his travels, to let him get acquainted with the other Lu family disciples and to encourage him to interact more in the future. Lu Changxing naturally responded respectfully to these words. He knew that as he was now integrating into the Lu family, such social interactions and affairs of human relationship were hard to avoid. Soon after, the steward arranged a small courtyard for him. The courtyard was not big, only a little over 100 square meters, even smaller than the one he had at Qingzhou Villa. It had simple formation effects for sound insulation and gathering spiritual energy. The spiritual energy was not as good as in Qingzhou Valley, but it was much better than Qingzhou Mountain. At night, a servant came to inform Lu Changxing about the banquet. Lu Changxing nodded and proceeded to the hall. As soon as Lu Changxing arrived at the hall, he saw not only the second elder and Lu Miaoge, but also two managers of the Lu family of the same generation as Lu Yuanding and 5 Lu family disciples. However, his gaze immediately fell on an incredibly beautiful woman standing next to Lu Miaoge. The woman wore a white crane-embroidered long dress that clung tightly, perfectly outlining her curvaceous silhouette through the fabric, leaving nothing of her graceful figure to the imagination. But beneath the slits of the tailored hem, one could see her long, straight legs sheathed in thin, white silk stockings, which rendered her already fair and smooth legs with an added touch of a high-class, sanctified allure. Her delicate feet wrapped in white silk stockings stepped into a pair of flowing cloud-patterned silver high heels, accentuating her graceful and tall figure even more vividly. This woman was none other than the second young Miss Lu Miaohuan, who had been on a blind date with Lu Changxing once before. Lu Changxing had not expected this second young miss to also be in the Nine Dragons Market. And this second young miss had even switched from black to white stockings. It had to be said, the second young miss had a really good figure. Especially those legs, perfectly proportioned, a bit more would be too plump, a bit less would be too skinny, straight and rounded. Whether in black or white stockings, they presented an astoundingly enticing appearance on her. Lu Miaohuan too noticed Lu Changxing, and seeing his gaze linger on her, promptly gave a cold snort, turning her head to look elsewhere. Lu Changxing just smiled and pretended not to notice. He was aware that the second young miss still held a grudge. That was normal. It had only been half a year since their blind date, and he had rejected the second young miss, marrying Lu Miaoyan instead. With the proud temperament of the second young miss, how could she easily forget and not hold a grudge? If it wasn't for the second elder hosting a welcoming banquet, the second young miss probably wouldn't even want to see him, much less show a pleasant expression. However, seeing Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan, the sisters similar in appearance and figure, standing side by side made Lu Changxing's mind wander, thinking what the eldest miss might look if she dressed alike. Or perhaps, the two sisters, one in white, the other in black. Lu Changxing dared not entertain the thought any further, immediately suppressing the wild horse of his mind. It was far too exciting, not to be pondered further. If family head Lu Yuanding knew he was entertaining thoughts about his two daughters, he might just cleave him with a sword. Second elder, he greeted as he bowed to the second elder. Changxing, let me introduce you to. The second elder naturally saw Lu Miaohuan's small gesture but said nothing. He was aware of the small history between Lu Changxing and Lu Miaohuan. It was precisely this incident that made Lu Yuanding see his daughter restless at home, hence he allowed her to come to Nine Dragons Market to find something to do, and also to take her mind off things. Thereupon, under the introduction of the second elder, Lu Changxing got acquainted with the two managers of the Lu family, and also with the other 4 Lu family disciples. These individuals, capable of handling affairs in the Nine Dragons Market, held not low positions within the Lu family, belonging to the future upper echelon. Chapter 78, Meeting the Second Miss Again. Qingge takes you to read books and taste tea. Aside from Lu Miaohuan, who held a grudge and did not give Lu Changxing a warm reception, the others were all quite enthusiastic. After all, love and hatred never come without reason. Lu Changxing was easygoing, never offending anyone, and as a middle-grade talisman master, naturally, they were willing to be on good terms with him. Especially since these few were aware of Lu Changxing's talent for talisman making, and the Lu family had always been encouraging Lu Changxing to fully integrate, they were naturally more inclined to foster good relations with Lu Changxing and would not do anything to offend him. Thus, Lu Changxing became acquainted with them. Well-fed and in high spirits, everyone left the event. A young man named Lu Miaoqing slung his arm over Lu Changxing's shoulder and said as if they were old friends, "Changxing, since it's your first time out and about, as your host, Brother Ching will take you to read books and taste tea tomorrow." Read books and taste tea? Lu Changxing was stunned. That's right, this tea house is very good, with many famous teas and all kinds of books. Just yesterday, a batch of new teas and books arrived. You won't be disappointed, Lu Miaoqing said with a meaningful look. Brother Cheng, this reading books, tasting tea, is it legitimate? Lu Changxing asked with a strange tone in his voice, sensing something off. Lu Miaoqing glanced around and lowered his voice. Don't worry, would I take you to a reputable place? How about it, shall we broaden our horizons tomorrow? Lu Changxing fell silent for a moment. Indeed, he hadn't guessed wrong. This was not a proper read books, taste tea your brother-in-law, for crying out loud. What kind of brother-in-law would take their brother-in-law to broaden their horizons in such a way? Also, you bring this up as soon as I arrive at Nine Dragons Market and want to take me to such a place, isn't that a bit improper? Or is that how you see me in your heart? Lu Changxing thought to himself, then said, Brother Cheng, I'm not that kind of person, I don't go to those places. But if you don't see the world, how will you gain experience? This is also a form of cultivation, Lu Miaoqing argued. There's a saying, tea is like a beauty, it should be savored slowly, and a lady is like a book, she should be read carefully. This reading books, tasting tea, is about observing all walks of life, experiencing the various flavors of life, and is the best way to gain life experience. Don't worry, I definitely won't tell Sister Miaoyan about this, Lu Miaoqing assured. Lu Changxing, damn it, a visit to a brothel is being made to sound so classy and pure. Lu Changxing had not expected the Lu family to have such a talented speaker. However, he did feel that there was some truth to what was said. It was indeed a way to gain experience and see the world. When someone travels alone, they should see more of the world, right? Maybe next time, Lu Changxing said after some contemplation. While he wanted to gain experience, the idea of doing such things just upon arriving at Nine Dragons Market gave him a sense of guilt. Moreover, he had more important things to do. He planned to stroll around the Loose Cultivator Marketplace tomorrow. All right then, whenever you want to go, you can look for Brother Cheng. I know every corner of Nine Dragons Market, Lu Miaoqing said, patting Lu Changxing's shoulder, feeling a bit bored. He had heard of Lu Changxing's reputation and thought he could find a kindred spirit, but to his surprise, Lu Changxing actually refused. All right, thanks Brother Cheng, Lu Changxing nodded, then returned to his room to meditate and cultivate for 2 hours before lying down to sleep. But as he lay in bed, he found it difficult to fall asleep, feeling like something was missing. Sigh, suddenly being alone, I'm not used to it, Lu Changxing sighed softly. Used to cuddling with his wife and concubine each night, the sudden solitude made him feel uneasy and not at peace. He then got up, took out his talisman-making tools from his storage bag, and began drawing talismans. After creating 3 middle-grade talismans, he felt a sense of mental fatigue and took a sip of white jade 100 flowers wine before lying back down and gradually falling asleep. The next day, Lu Changxing got up, had a simple breakfast, and went to find his sister-in-law, Lu Miaoga, to accompany him to the spiritual talisman shop. During the process, he saw Lu Miaohuan again. But she showed no warmth toward him whatsoever. Although she was chatting with her sister, Lu Miaoga, the moment she saw him come over, she immediately let out an icy snort, her face full of disdain. Huan just has that temperament, she doesn't mean any harm, don't take it to heart, Lu Miaoga said, her face showing a hint of apology. Last night, Lu Miaohuan had come to ask her why Lu Changxing had come to Nine Dragons Market. She hadn't hidden anything and had told her sister about the fourth elder's plans to hand over the shop for Lu Changxing to manage. After hearing about the matter, Lu Miaohuan, despite her cold and disdainful remarks about Lu Changxing and his ability to manage the shop, was certain he would succeed. But she, who knew her younger sister's personality very well, understood. The more she acted like this, the more it indicated her sister was actually concerned about Lu Changxing. If Lu Miaohuan wasn't concerned about Lu Changxing, she wouldn't have acted this way at all. Reflecting on this made her let out a small sigh. If Lu Changxing were just an ordinary cultivator, in time, her sister might gradually forget and not dwell on it. But the problem was, Lu Changxing was no ordinary cultivator. Not only was he handsome, but he also had an exceptional talent in the talisman path, unparalleled and leading the rest by far. With time, he would become a first-grade middle-grade talisman master, a first-grade top-level talisman master, and even a second-grade talisman master. Now, Lu Changxing had come to Nine Dragons Market and met with her sister. Under these circumstances, her sister would constantly have this matter and Lu Changxing on her mind, which would gradually foster a delicate and dangerous sentiment. But when it came to this kind of issue, she didn't know how to advise her sister. Because Lu Miaohuan didn't like being preached to and might even react defiantly. "It's fine, the second miss is straightforward, why would I mind? Besides, it was my fault to begin with," Lu Changxing said, shaking his head slightly. He wasn't particularly concerned about Lu Miaohuan's attitude. After all, during the matchmaking encounter, he really did regale her with a bunch of flattery and praise. When she finally agreed, he turned her down, which would understandably vex anyone. Especially given Lu Miaohuan's proud and haughty nature as a young lady. Moreover, Lu Changxing felt that he might have a bit of a bias for good looks. He tended to be more forgiving towards attractive women. As the two walked and chatted, they arrived at the spiritual talisman shop. Lu Changxing told Lu Miaoga that if there was nothing else happening today, he would like to go out and browse around. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoga fell silent for a moment, then said, "You usually spend little time with Miaoqing, don't follow him to unseemly places." Lu Changxing was initially startled upon hearing this, slightly confused, then he couldn't help but curse inwardly. Damn, how bad can Brother Cheng's reputation be? Lu Miaoqing had just slapped him on the shoulder yesterday and exchanged a few words with him. And now, when he mentioned wanting to go out for a stroll, Lu Miaoga suspected that he was planning to go to the tea house with Lu Miaoqing. This left Lu Changxing at a loss for words. He even had the strange impression he might be caught by his wife while visiting a courtesan's quarters. "Sister Miaoga, Brother Ching invited me to read and taste tea yesterday, but I outright refused. I just thought I'd wander around and take a look at the loose cultivators market on Southwest Street." Lu Changxing immediately spoke up, distancing himself from any association with Lu Miaoqing. He truly hadn't anticipated that the latter's reputation could be so tarnished. "Okay, I'm here at the shop, you go ahead, why not let Li Shi or Wang Wu accompany you? They are very familiar with the marketplace," Lu Miaoga advised without much ado, nodding slightly. "No need, I'll just wander around by myself," Lu Changxing waved his hand, indicating it wasn't necessary. He still vividly remembered the way Li Shi and Wang Wu looked at him the day before. So, he didn't want to interact too much and distract his employees from their work. "Alright, just be sure to come back before dark. Do you have a transmission talisman with you? If you get lost, you can message me. There are also many guides in the marketplace who specialize in showing people around and directing them to shops. If you want to buy something, you could hire a guide," Lu Miaoga spoke in a soft voice, as if advising Lu Changxing like an elder would. Lu Changxing suddenly felt as if Lu Miaoga was turning into the fourth elder before his eyes. Treating him as if he were a child who hadn't experienced the world. Keep in mind, he was the father of 30 children, after all. However, he knew that Lu Miaoga was treating him like a brother or something similar. "Alright, don't worry, Sister Miaoga," Lu Changxing said with a smile, waving his hand. He felt in his heart that if Lu Miaoga truly saw him as a brother, it would make it even more difficult for those feelings to change. Chapter 79, Cat Girl? Fox Lady? Snake Princess? _1 After parting with Lu Miaoga, Lu Changxing wandered around the streets for a while before entering a deserted alley. He took out the human skin mask from his storage bag, put it on, and donned a wide, gray-brown robe. He poured some pre-prepared liquid onto his palm and smeared it over his hands and neck, making his skin appear less fair. In an instant, his handsome and dashing appearance changed into that of an ordinary-looking youth with dark skin. Still, his stature remained tall and slender. This was a basic disguise technique he had learned from Li Feiyu. It wasn't very sophisticated, but it was sufficient for his needs. Then, Lu Changxing took out a talisman from his storage bag and used it on himself, causing his spiritual power aura to retract. A middle-grade aura concealment talisman. Its effects were the same as the aura concealment technique. But it was several times more effective than the aura concealment technique that Lu Changxing had just started to learn. Unless it was an energy refinement late-stage cultivator using the spiritual eye technique, they wouldn't be able to perceive his cultivation level. This was also why Lu Changxing usually didn't spend too much time and energy on cultivating spells. For one thing, it was too time-consuming and effort-intensive. On the other hand, many times, talismans could be used as a substitute. Sigh, sometimes being handsome is also a kind of trouble, he sighed, stepping out of the alley. Lu Changxing's good looks and exceptional aura made him very memorable, which could be problematic. If he were to sell talismans and later be recognized as the owner of the Lu family spiritual talisman shop, it would be awkward to explain. So, it was better to change his appearance and conceal his aura, making him look more ordinary. Although this disguise technique was very basic and even a bit rough, and some people might recognize the disguise, as long as no one saw his true face or remembered him, it should suffice. Having left the alley, Lu Changxing made his way to the entrance of a street. He saw several youngsters squatting there, looking around with signs that read guide. Before he could approach, one of the youngsters came up to him enthusiastically, saying, "Senior, do you need a guide? I grew up in Nine Dragons Market and am very familiar with every area. Whatever you want to know or purchase, I have all the details." The youngster spoke with enthusiasm. Although Lu Changxing had disguised himself and concealed his aura, making him look just like an ordinary person, these youths, who made their living in Nine Dragons Market as guides, naturally had a certain insight. They could tell at a glance that Lu Changxing was interested in hiring a guide. Even if he wasn't interested, at most, it would just be one wasted question, no loss at all. "How much do you charge for your services?" Lu Changxing nodded and asked. "Senior, I only charge 1 spirit stone for a day," the youth immediately replied. A spirit stone weighs 10 liang. After the spiritual energy inside is consumed, the weight will become lighter. During the mining of spirit stones, there will also be some broken fragments known as spirit stone shards. These units of spirit stones are seldom used by cultivators. They are relatively common only in marketplaces like this one. "Okay, then take me around. You have change for spirit stones, right?" Lu Changxing asked upon hearing this and took out a spirit stone he had previously used that weighed around 4 or 5 liang. The youth showed a hint of regret in his eyes but immediately responded enthusiastically, "Yes, I do." After taking and examining the spirit stone, weighing it briefly, he then took out 2 spirit stone shards and handed them to Lu Changxing. The youth then said, "Senior, may I know what you are looking to buy or learn about?" "Take me to the stalls where they trade," Lu Changxing said. "The trading stalls are on Southwest Street." "This way, please, senior." "It's about a half-hour's walk from here to Southwest Street. If you have anything specific you wish to purchase, you can also tell me. I know of quite a few shops where the quality of the items is guaranteed," the youngster continued. As guides, the real money was in taking cultivators to spend in shops. "Is there any shop in the marketplace that sells rare treasures and exotic goods?" inquired Lu Changxing. "If senior wishes to purchase rare treasures and exotic goods, you can go to Qingyun Commerce Guild and Myriad Treasures Pavilion. Not only are their prices reasonable and their selection vast, but the quality is also guaranteed. If senior wants to spend a little less money, I also know quite a few shops selling rare treasures and exotic goods with guaranteed quality that I can take you to," the youngster said immediately. Even though he wanted to earn money by bringing customers to shops, he wouldn't blindly lead others astray, he couldn't afford to deceive people. After all, he was just a mortal. If he dared to deceive a cultivator and was found out, it would mean certain death. What if I want to sell some talismans? Are there any shops that will buy them? Lu Changxing asked in an even tone. Hearing that Lu Changxing wanted to sell talismans, the youth immediately realized that Lu Changxing might be a talisman master. However, as a guide, he naturally wouldn't inquire further. His job was to provide information. He promptly said with respect, "Senior, most of the spiritual talisman shops in Nine Dragons Market will buy talismans." Then, are there any well-reputed talisman shops in the marketplace? Continued Lu Changxing. Actually, to be able to open a shop in the marketplace, they all have a good reputation, but if we are talking about the best reputation for talismans, naturally it's the Tianfu Pavilion of the Shen family. Their talismans not only guarantee quality, but they also often have special offers. However, they don't usually buy talismans from outsiders. Next would be the shops of families like By Lake Mountains Yu family, Qingzhou Mountains Lu family, Red Leaf Valleys Chen family, and Wugong Ridges Jing family. Their quality and reputation are guaranteed, the youngster said. If Senior is looking to buy talisman paper, I would recommend the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain and the Chen family of Red Leaf Valley. Their talisman paper is made with their own materials, which makes it much better than average. Chapter 80, Cat Girl? Fox Lady? Snake Princess? The youth spoke incessantly. Upon hearing Qingzhou Lu's spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changxing nodded slightly. He knew that what the young man said was quite credible, and it was almost the same as what he had learned yesterday from Zhang Shan's account of the shop. White Jade Tower. At that moment, Lu Changxing saw a quaint and ancient-looking pagod-like building not far away. The sign on the building bore the three characters White Jade Tower, reminding him that Hong Yi had mentioned spending a considerable price to buy his two favored maids, Jiu'er and Shu'er, from there. Seeing Lu Changxing's gaze toward the White Jade Tower, the youth immediately spoke, "Senior, White Jade Tower specializes in matching matrimonial alliances, introducing wives and concubines, and selling maids. If Senior is thinking of taking a wife or concubines, or purchasing maids, you can visit White Jade Tower. White Jade Tower is also an established brand. I've heard that it's not just in Nine Dragons Market, but has branches in many marketplaces and even in Immortal City." The youth spoke, saying this. Oh. Lu Changxing's eyebrows raised on hearing this. He couldn't help but wonder internally if the White Jade Tower, where Hong Yi had purchased Jiu'er and Shu'er, and this White Jade Tower were the same establishment. Just different branches? Then the business of this White Jade Tower was indeed quite extensive. The next time he received a letter from Hong Yi, he could ask if it was the same White Jade Tower. Does White Jade Tower have any wives, concubines, or maids with a spiritual root? Lu Changxing inquired. He naturally wouldn't forget about searching for a fairy. After all matters are but passing clouds, and only taking wives, concubines, and bearing children is the true path. He was quite satisfied with Jiu'er and Shu'er, whom Hong Yi had gifted him. If he could use money to buy obedient and sensible maids with spiritual root, that would be the best outcome. Of course, there are some with spiritual roots available, but they are a minority. Most are just exceptionally beautiful and have a gracious temperament, either descendants of cultivators or ordinary humans, the youth replied. I've heard that inside White Jade Tower, there are not only women from the human race, but also those from other races and the demon race, although I am not too clear about the specifics and the prices. If Senior is interested, you could go in for more information. The youth spoke again. Not only the human race, but also other races and the demon race. Lu Changxing knew that the two girls Jiu'er and Shu'er sent by Hong Yi were from other races. Now hearing that there were also demon race girls, he instantly thought of creatures like cat girls, fox women, and snake maidens. Lu Changxing gave a nod, not asking further, and kept the White Jade Tower in his mind. He planned to come back later to take a look and get more information. After all, the women in such a place would likely have hard lives. If he had the ability to help them, he would, saving whoever he could. It would be like saving a life, better than building a 7-tiered pagoda. Thus, Lu Changxing chatted casually with the youth as they walked, gathering various information about the marketplace. The pair finally reached Southwest Street where the loose cultivators set up their stalls for trading. Senior, ahead is Southwest Street, where the loose cultivators freely trade. If you wish to set up a stall, you need to pay a spirit stone for the management fee at the fee collection booth up ahead, the youth told Lu Changxing. Lu Changxing nodded, thinking to himself that this Nine Dragons market really did charge for everything. Even setting up a stall required a payment of a spirit stone as a management fee. He arrived at the entrance of Southwest Street, and immediately saw a street lined with lanterns, with neatly organized stalls on both sides. The throngs of people in the middle, bustling like a market in the secular world, with relentless hawking much livelier than the streets he had passed earlier. That will do, your task is completed. There's no need to follow me anymore, I'll wander around by myself, Lu Changxing said, waving his hand dismissively at the youth. Yes, I take my leave, and I wish Senior great luck and success, that all your wishes come true, and that fortune descends upon you, bringing prosperous and flourishing cultivation, the youth said, bowing and reciting a litany of well wishes. Lu Changxing, unfazed by these blessings, showed no inclination of giving a tip and continued walking into the street. Seeing this, the youth wasn't disappointed. After all, wealthy patrons were few and far between, and it was rare to encounter even a few in a year. Lu Changxing didn't rush to sell talismans. Instead, he decided to take a look around first, to see if there was anything he needed or found interesting, and to understand the local prices. Second-hand vestment robes for sale, practically new and without patches. Red-striped tiger meat, tender and fresh, just slaughtered last night. 10-year-old black truffles, 3 spirit stones per pound, a deal of 10 spirit stones for 3 pounds. Brother, need elixir medicines? Freshly concocted ascension elixirs here, pop one and all worldly troubles will melt away. Each stall was actively advertising their wares. Lu Changxing followed the flow of people, examining each stall in turn. The variety of items for sale was remarkably diverse. It was a far cry from the standards of the market at Bullhead Mountain, vastly superior in the quality of goods on offer. Most of the items were spiritual objects used by cultivators. And thinking about it made sense. After all, if one had to pay a spirit stone just to secure a stall, then selling junk wouldn't earn back even the cost of the stall fee. Lu Changxing examined the goods in great detail, directly purchasing any materials suitable for cultivating the 100 Refinements treasure body technique. Because he was cultivating the 100 Refinements treasure body technique, he could roughly sense the quality of the spiritual materials, so he wasn't likely to be swindled. As for stumbling upon an incredible bargain, that was almost non-existent, not to mention the low odds, because to use the 100 Refinements treasure body technique to sense the quality of spiritual materials, he needed to touch them. Merely looking wouldn't reveal anything, he didn't have the eye for it. He hadn't even finished browsing half the street when Lu Changxing had already spent half of his spirit stones, all used for purchasing spiritual materials for cultivating the 100 Refinements treasure body technique. Chapter 81, Cat Girl? Fox Lady? Snake Princess? This made him sigh with helplessness. Money really burns fast. Afterward, Lu Changxing restrained himself a bit and focused on observing. If he really wanted to buy something, he decided to look around more and come back later to make a purchase. During this process, Lu Changxing overheard someone haggling, chit-chatting, and debating, and he would stand aside and listen if he found it interesting. In fact, as he wandered and listened along the way, he did indeed learn a great deal and broadened his horizons considerably. Fellow Daoist, I'd like to trade this magic artifact fragment for your item. Would you like to exchange? A magic artifact fragment? May I have a look? What kind of magic artifact fragment is this? It's completely useless, I want trade. At that moment, Lu Changxing's attention was caught by a conversation at a nearby stall, and he turned to look in that direction. He saw an elegant middle-aged man standing in front of a stall, taking back a black iron lump the size of an egg with a rough surface. Fellow Daoist, you said this is a fragment of a magic artifact. Does this fragment have any effects? A woman in blue stepped forward and politely inquired of the elegant man. Clearly, she also heard about the magic artifact fragment and wondered if she could pick up a bargain. There is no special effect, it's just very hard. I once tried hacking it with my middle-grade flying sword magic instrument, and my flying sword ended up with a notch. The elegant man said with a pained expression on his face. His words immediately sparked curiosity among the others who were paying attention. Being able to notch a flying sword magic instrument meant this was no ordinary scrap. Even if it wasn't a fragment of a magic artifact, it was still an extremely rare material. This esteemed brother, I am willing to offer 20 spirit stones for this fragment, will you sell? Someone spoke up. Won't sell. If you want it, you have to pay at least 100 spirit stones. The elegant man waved his hand dismissively. 100 spirit stones is too expensive, fellow Daoist, I am willing to offer 30 spirit stones. Fellow Daoist, could you use your flying sword to hack it again in front of me? If it really notches the sword, I am willing to offer 40 spirit stones. Another person proposed. However, upon hearing this, the elegant man's face darkened instantly, and he scolded, "Scram! Fellow Daoist, may I take a look at this magic artifact fragment?" In the meantime, Lu Chongqing also stepped forward and with a bow, he spoke. His 100 refinements treasure body art required heavenly materials and treasures for cultivation. If the piece in front of him was indeed a fragment of a magic artifact, and he could integrate it into his body for cultivating the 100 refinements treasure body art, then he wouldn't just offer 100 spirit stones. Even 200, 300 spirit stones, in his view, would be worthwhile. Even if it wasn't a magic artifact fragment, but some kind of heavenly material or treasure, it would still be beneficial for him. 100 spirit stones, not a single spirit stone less. The elegant man handed over the lumpy black iron piece to Lu Chongqing. Lu Chongqing took the piece, which was cool to the touch and somewhat heavy, weighing at least 20 or 30 pounds. This heaviness of such a small lump of iron also indicated it was out of the ordinary. Lu Chongqing slowly operated his 100 refinements treasure body art, his fingertips reddened slightly as he sensed the essence of heaven and earth within the iron lump. He immediately felt that the essence contained within was far more vigorous than any of the materials he had purchased before. Even though he did not know if it was a piece of a magic artifact, Lu Chongqing was certain it was a good item and that purchasing it was unlikely to result in a loss. Fellow Daoist, I don't have enough spirit stones on me. Could I use these 2 superior grade talismans to offset some of the spirit stones? Lu Chongqing said calmly, taking out 2 superior grade talismans from his sleeve. He currently had only 140 spirit stones left on him. If I buy this shard, I won't have enough spirit stones to buy anything else. So I'll try bartering with goods, while also using up some of the talismans I have on me. As I've wandered around, I've seen quite a few exchanges of goods for goods. After all, most loose cultivators don't carry that many spirit stones on them for transactions. Flying Ascension Talisman, Golden Light Barrier Talisman. The refined man immediately recognized the 2 talismans, his eyes lit up, and he said, I won't take advantage of you, these 2 spirit talismans can offset 70 spirit stones. You just have to give me 30 more spirit stones. The refined man stated very directly. He only guessed that this iron chunk was a fragment of a magical treasure but wasn't certain himself. It had been put up for sale several times, and he had sought appraisals, but no one was willing to pay a high price for it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked for only 100 spirit stones. Seeing that Lu Chongqing was interested, he was of course very willing to sell. Alright, but I'd like to see the notch on this iron chunk that you said was chopped by flying swords. If it's true, I'll make the deal immediately, Lu Chongqing spoke. The prices for these 2 talismans were roughly 30 spirit stones each, and the other party was indeed sincere. However, although he knew the iron chunk was valuable, he couldn't let on as if he had made a huge gain, as that could raise suspicions. Sure. Upon hearing this, the refined man took out a deep blue flying sword from his storage bag. Pointing to a small notch on it, he sighed and said, You see, this notch is the one I regretfully made with a casual chop. Lu Chongqing could see that there was a notch as wide as a finger in the middle of the flying sword. He nodded immediately, handed over the 2 talismans to the man, and took out 30 spirit stones, saying, "All right, in that case, I'll take the shard." "Good." The fellow cultivator is decisive. The refined man accepted the talismans and spirit stones, his face showing delight as he gave a bow. Lu Chongqing also bowed slightly, tucked away the iron shard, and continued to stroll around. TSK, someone actually spent 100 spirit stones on this so-called magical treasure shard. This iron piece, able to notch a flying sword, is indeed good material, it's just too small. If it were really worth that much, he would have taken it to the Myriad Treasures Pavilion for appraisal and sale by now. Would he have asked for just 100 spirit stones? Even if it is indeed a fragment of a magical treasure, it must be from a large magical artifact, otherwise, there wouldn't be a complete lack of enchantments. That's correct, such fragments of magical treasures are not so easy to melt down. This thing, those who could use it wouldn't want it, and those who would want it can't use it. Indeed, it's of no use to us energy refining cultivators. Who knows, maybe the buyer has some other clever use for it. A few people nearby saw this scene and started discussing it aloud. Lu Chongqing heard the whispers but didn't mind them. After all, someone had a point, he indeed had another extraordinary use for it, planning to use it for cultivation. I'm not even sure if this thing is a piece of a magical treasure, but if it is, and I can incorporate it into my body for cultivating the 100 Refinements treasure body art, then I've really made a small fortune. As long as I complete the first layer of the 100 Refinements treasure body art, my body will be as strong as a lower-grade magical instrument, and at that time, my physical body will undergo a qualitative improvement. Lu Chongqing thought to himself. After half a year of nurturing, his physical body had already become much stronger than before. But there was still a significant distance to go before the first layer of the 100 Refinements treasure body art, refining his body to the level of a lower-grade magical instrument. There was no helping it, body refinement techniques are time-consuming and expensive to practice. And the 100 Refinements treasure body art is far superior to ordinary body refinement techniques. He had only been practicing it for a little over half a year. Having spent over 100 spirit stones on materials before, and now another 100 on this magical treasure shard, Lu Chongqing worried he might attract unwanted attention and decided to leave Southwest Street immediately. Although Nine Dragons Market was well regulated under the protection of Qingyun sect, ensuring good security, it was still best to be cautious in all matters. Chapter 82, Young Master, are you here for pleasure? _1 Leaving Southwest Street, Lu Chongqing did not head straight back. Instead, he found an inn on a nearby street and spent a spirit stone to rent a room. Once in the room, Lu Chongqing took out a middle-grade purification talisman from his storage bag and used it on himself. Cultivators have a multitude of spells and techniques at their disposal, many of which can leave behind marks on others for tracking purposes. This purification talisman was capable of dispelling and cleansing such tracking marks and imprints. Seeing that the talisman had no effect on him, Lu Chongqing also breathed a sigh of relief. Knowing he was not being tracked. After all, last time he had left Bullhead Mountain after selling some items, he was targeted immediately upon descent. It was still wise to be cautious and careful. Lu Chongqing could even feel that his 2 years of comfortable life with the Lu family had caused him to lose some of that cautiousness that he had when he first arrived, always feeling as if he were walking on thin ice. Hence, he constantly reminded himself to stay alert and be aware of potential dangers even when in a safe environment. Otherwise, there's no telling when danger might strike. After resting in the room for half an hour, Lu Chongqing left with a human skin mask on. He still had the same dark, unremarkable appearance. After all, looking ordinary made it less likely for one to be remembered. Stepping out of the inn, Lu Chongqing returned to Southwest Street. Having spent so many spirit stones today without any income, it was natural that he wouldn't return so quickly. He was planning to sell some items in exchange for spirit stones. He continued to stroll along the street he had previously walked. Since he had already bought many spiritual materials needed for the 100 Refinements treasure body technique, enough for some time of cultivation, he didn't buy any more. After all, it was necessary to keep some spirit stones on hand for emergencies. Then, he saw a stall selling books. He spent 2 spirit stones and bought a dragon-locking secret technique and a jade room essential arts. They taught how to enhance that certain ability and how to retain yang energy and blood during moments of pleasure, reducing energy loss. These were just common bedroom arts, not any cultivation techniques or secret techniques. Otherwise, they would not be sold for such a price. In Lu Changsheng's opinion, these things were just for fun. Real dual cultivation secret techniques and cultivation techniques would have to come from the system. After browsing around enough, Lu Changsheng went to a stall at the corner of the street to pay a spirit stone and start his own stall. The cultivator at the payment stall gave him a wooden plaque. The plaque bore a number, corresponding to a stall location where he could set up shop for 3 days. Having taken the plaque, Lu Changsheng found his designated spot and sat down. He took out a stack of talismans. There were 30 lower-grade talismans and 5 middle-grade talismans in total. While he was wandering around earlier, he had also taken a look at other talisman-selling stalls. He knew he couldn't put out too many, or it would attract undue attention. Then, he laid out 3 items had acquired from 3 robber cultivators on Bullhead Mountain, a flying sword, a flying dagger, and a bell. Since he had the green-face sword and plenty of talismans by his side, he had no use for these 3 magic artifacts and naturally chose to sell them for cash. As for the 3 storage bags had previously obtained, one he used for miscellaneous items, and another for talismans, he wasn't selling them just yet as they might come in handy later. After marking prices on all the items, Lu Changsheng waited for business to pick up. However, an hour passed by. Every now and then, people glanced at his stall, but most had little interest. He only sold 5 or 6 talismans. My stall's location isn't good, it's too far back. And in a place like Nine Dragons Market, there are too many people selling talismans and magic artifacts. It's too competitive, and most rely on the reputation and customers they've built up over time. Even though my prices are a bit lower than other stalls, I still can't compete unless I lower them even more. But a slight reduction is useless. I'd have to drop the prices significantly, and that would clearly disrupt the market and attract unwanted attention. After selling for quite a while without moving many items, a hint of impatience arose in Lu Changsheng, and he stood up to pack up and leave. He planned to see if he could find any buyers for talismans and magic artifacts. A lower price would be fine. Otherwise, relying on setting up a stall, who knows when he would manage to sell everything. I have 30 lower-grade talismans and 5 middle-grade talismans. Will you buy them? No. 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 What price are you offering? After asking 4 stalls, one of the owners spoke up. 10% off your current asking price, Lu Changsheng said. Too high, 50% off, and they'll take them all, the stall owner countered. Forget it then, I might as well sell them myself. Lu Changsheng turned to leave immediately. Damn it, there was a limit to being cutthroat. He couldn't believe the owner had the nerve to say 50% off. Brother, 60% off, the stall owner called out as Lu Changsheng walked away. 80% off, Lu Changsheng paused. How about this, let's meet halfway at 70% off, the stall owner suggested. Lu Changsheng hesitated for a moment, then nodded, all right. He took out the stack of talismans for the owner to count. He suddenly felt a twinge of guilt toward Hong Yi. He was selling talismans here at a 30% discount. Yet, he only gave a 20% discount to Hong Yi. Based on the market price, that's 80 spirit stones in total. At 70% off, that would be 56 spirit stones. The stall owner calculated the price after counting the talismans. Deal. Lu Changsheng completed the transaction and quickly left Southwest Street. He changed his appearance again and found 4 spiritual talisman shops to sell his talismans. Considering his own identity issues and not being proficient enough in changing appearances, Lu Changsheng chose not to approach the larger talisman shops. The shops he found all seemed relatively small. The buying price for talismans was around 70% off. And so, Lu Changsheng sold a total of 145 lower-grade talismans and 60 middle-grade talismans at 5 different spiritual talisman shops. Chapter 83, Young Master, are you here for pleasure? In total, I've gathered 366 spirit stones. After walking out of the last spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changxing didn't continue selling. It's the same old saying, there's plenty of time, so it pays to be a little more cautious. With over 400 spirit stones on hand, that should suffice for quite a while. Besides, I only had a total of 5 human skin masks on me. And with this move, they're all used up. After leaving the last spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changxing didn't bother changing his clothes and went straight to a nearby magic artifact shop to ask if they were buying artifacts. Upon hearing that they were, Lu Changxing took out 3 magic artifacts. Although these 3 magic artifacts seem intact, they have obviously been used for a long time and have clear defects. They might break while being used. If friend wishes to sell them, our shop is willing to purchase each for 30 spirit stones. The shopkeeper of the magic artifact shop inspected the 3 magic artifacts that Lu Changxing had and then quoted him a price. What a rip-off. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing couldn't help but mutter this sentiment in his heart. He had examined the 3 magic artifacts thoroughly himself. All one could say was that the 3 robber cultivators from Bullhead Mountain had been extremely careful with their artifacts, and there were no damages. To describe them as 90% new would not be an exaggeration. Yet the initial offer was only 30 spirit stones each. Then forget it, the lowest I'll go for the 3 pieces is 120 spirit stones. Lu Changxing shook his head, stated his bottom line, and pretended to walk away. That's too high, 120 spirit stones is too much. How about 100 stones? Well, take all 3 for 100, the shopkeeper said, seeing Lu Changxing's actions. 1 step, 2 steps, wandering steps, seeing Lu Changxing about to walk out the door, he added, 110, truly the lowest price. You won't find a better deal elsewhere. But as Lu Changxing actually started to leave, the shopkeeper immediately went out and called, 115 spirit stones. Deal. Hearing this, Lu Changxing felt it was close enough to his expectations, tough it was acceptable, and stopped in his tracks. He exchanged the 3 magic artifacts for 115 spirit stones. At that moment, Lu Changxing noticed a pair of azure boots in the shop that matched his magical robe quite well. Pointing at the boots, he asked, "Shopkeeper, what kind of magic boots are these? What effects do they have?" These boots are a middle-grade magic artifact, crafted using the fur of a green-winged wolf demon beast. They come with 6 major effects: size adjustment to fit, dust avoidance, self-concealment, light body, stepping over waves, and the wind control skill, the shopkeeper promptly explained. Middle-grade magic artifact? Lu Changxing gave a slight nod as he asked, "May I try them on?" "Of course, you can." The shopkeeper replied with a smile. He took out the magic boots from the counter to let Lu Changxing try them on. The boots weren't heavy, quite thin and soft, and lined with fine fur inside. Upon putting them on, Lu Changxing's initial feeling was of utmost comfort, softness as if they were barely there, and it seemed as if his whole body had become much lighter. That was the weight lightening effect of the boots. It was as if he had a permanent light body skill acting on him. As for stepping over waves and the wind control skill, when activated, they would allow him to move swiftly over water and greatly enhance his wind control skill, respectively. "How much for this pair of boots?" Lu Changxing inquired. He was quite satisfied with these boots, not just in terms of style and effect but also due to their comfort. If he were to encounter trouble in the future, these boots would allow him to make a quicker escape. This is also the first sale of the day for our shop. The original price was 210 spirit stones, but since we just did business with you, friend, it will be 200 stones for you, the shopkeeper stated. That's too expensive. A normal middle-grade magic artifact goes for just 150 spirit stones. Would you sell for 140? Lu Changxing went straight into bargaining. Just now, when he offered his 3 artifacts, the other party's opening bid was 30 spirit stones each. It was obvious there was a lot of room for negotiation. And besides, forget about his previous lives' purchasing experiences, just from his most recent rounds of shopping, he knew well that bargaining was essential. If you agree too readily to what the seller says, they might even talk behind your back and consider you a sucker. That's too low. Not only is this pair of boots made from the pelt of a green-winged wolf, it also contains spiritual silkworm thread. The craftsmanship, dyeing, and embroidery of the magic circles are all extremely meticulous. If friend is interested, I can go as low as 195 spirit stones. The shopkeeper recounted a litany of features and made a counteroffer. Eventually, after some haggling, Lu Chongqing managed to get the boots for 160 spirit stones. After purchasing the boots, Lu Chongqing took another look around the shop, to see if there were any artifacts suited for his use. He felt his means were too limited and that he needed to arm himself with more methods of self-protection. He then spent 63 spirit stones and 210 spirit stones in the shop to buy a lower-grade magic artifact, 100 Changes Mask, and a middle-grade magic artifact, Chill Jade Spiritual Pendant. The 100 Changes Mask, once tailored to the face, could be freely altered to another visage, and unless it was a cultivator in the late stages of spirit refinement using the spiritual eye technique, nobody could detect anything. With this magical mask, he needn't bother buying ordinary human skin masks anymore. And the Chill Jade Spiritual Pendant, when worn, provided clear-mindedness, concealed spiritual power, masked one's aura, and shielded against divine sense probing. Moreover, in dangerous situations, it could passively generate a body-protecting shield capable of withstanding a hit from a cultivator at the middle stage of qi refinement. Take care, friend, the shopkeeper said, smiling while he saw Lu Chongqing out of the store. Sigh, money really burns a hole in your pocket, doesn't it? After exiting the shop, Lu Chongqing sighed. Just a while ago, he thought the substantial sum he had would last a long time. But in the blink of an eye, he had almost spent all the money from selling talismans and magic artifacts, with only a little over 100 spirit stones left. He didn't have enough to buy new artifacts or materials for talismans. Isn't money meant to be spent anyway, and you can't skimp on upgrading your equipment? In about 10 days to half a month, he'll come back and sell another batch of talismans, and then he'll have money again. Chapter 84, Young Master, are you here for pleasure? Lu Chongqing let out a breath and went to another inn to open a room. He used a purification talisman to check if he was marked for tracking. Once he confirmed that he wasn't being followed, Lu Chongqing put on the human skin mask, and with a slight shift of his mental spirit, his face turned into the likeness of Li Feiyu. It's really worthy of being a magic artifact. With this I don't need to change my appearance anymore. Lu Chongqing looked at himself in the mirror, whose features shifted continuously, and he couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. It was a pity that this mask was just a lower-grade magical instrument. The changes in appearance, once scrutinized by a cultivator at the energy refinement late stage using the spiritual eye technique, would reveal some inconsistencies. However, it didn't matter. At that time he could just wear another human skin mask. After all, as long as his real face couldn't be recognized, it was fine. After all, with a lower-grade magical instrument, what else would one need a bicycle for? Lu Chongqing used the human skin mask to transform into an ordinary face and walked out of the inn. Then he turned left and right, returning to his own face in an alleyway. He was dressed in a Qingzhou embroidered robe with green-winged boots, handsome and elegant as if a graceful pine was charming the wind. Just as Lu Chongqing was about to leave the alley, a voluptuous woman walked out of a small courtyard nearby, wearing only a thin, pink gauze garment that accentuated her curves, revealing creamy white fragrant shoulders. Upon seeing Lu Chongqing, her eyes lit up, and she couldn't help but smile coquettishly, saying softly, "Is the young master here to seek pleasure?" Lu Chongqing's face was full of question marks. Since the young master is here, why not come in and experience it for yourself? For just 5 spirit stones, this slave can give the young master the ultimate pleasure. The woman said in a tender voice, her seductive eyes like silk, reaching out her fair, jade-like hand to pull Lu Chongqing, giving him a tingling sensation as if he had been electrocuted. Particularly the bewitching, musk-like fragrance emanating from her body was highly seductive, making one's heart restless and desiring to lose oneself in the land of beautiful women. At the same time, the cold jade spiritual amulet worn on Lu Chongqing's chest produced a clear spiritual energy that suppressed the restlessness he was feeling. Bewitching technique. Lu Chongqing immediately became wary, realizing the woman in front of him was using a bewitching technique on him. He hastily stepped back, shaking his head and saying, "I'm sorry, I'm just passing by." Today, this slave is very fond of the young master. For just 2 spirit stones, I can be at the young master's. The woman continued to speak, her lovely and charming face taking on a pitiable look. It made one irresistible not to feel pity and the urge to indulge in her and ravish her. Upon hearing her words, Lu Changxing repeatedly chanted Namo Amitabha Buddha in his heart, folded his hands, and quickly left. "Young master, at least for today, this slave won't take your spirit stones," the woman called out in a soft voice again. However, Lu Changxing didn't turn back and quickly walked out of the alley, leaving the woman with a somewhat ugly expression on her face. She cursed resentfully, oblivious to what's good for him, as if being handsome is such a big deal. Then she turned and went back into her courtyard. Phew! Lu Changxing walked out of the alley and exhaled a long breath. He felt no hint of longing, only relief at the close call. I had thought myself battle-hardened, weathered through numerous trials, with a resolve as firm as steel, never to be easily swayed by the charms of a woman, yet I hadn't expected the power of a bewitching technique to be so formidable. The female cultivator just now should not have had a very high cultivation level, just middle stage to late chi refinement. Nevertheless, in such a situation, I actually felt enchanted. If it were a cultivator of great cultivation level or one adept in bewitching techniques, it would truly be an unstoppable defense. Lu Changxing couldn't help but inwardly remark. The woman he had just met was indeed good-looking, with a very seductive figure, but that alone wouldn't have affected him so much. Yet as she approached, her words and actions made his heart restless and eager to plunge into desire. Strength, it's the increase of strength that is the true path. Lu Changxing took a deep breath and silently thought to himself. If he really encountered a powerful bewitching technique or other unpreventable tactics, even with a body full of talismans and possessing talisman treasures, he might be unable to use them. I mustn't wander carelessly in these alleys in the future, one never knows when danger might strike. Lu Changxing shook his head and walked towards the spiritual talisman shop. He planned to keep to the more crowded streets from now on. The Nine Dragons Market was known for its good public order, but that did not mean it was entirely devoid of hazards. Accidents would happen from time to time, and in these deserted alleys, there might lurk heretic cultivators or robber cultivators. On his way back to the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changxing passed White Jade Tower and involuntarily paused. Then, eyeing the White Jade Tower before him, his gaze narrowed, and he strode in. After all, one mustn't stop taking wives, concubines, and fathering children. That was his foundation for settling down and establishing himself in this world. If one could simply buy maids or concubines with a spiritual root, it would naturally be the best option. Otherwise, if left to his own devices to find them, it would be difficult. This difficulty did not solely refer to the challenges of taking multiple wives or concubines. Lu Changxing knew that with his current circumstances, marrying a few more fairies with spiritual roots would not pose an issue. But after taking a wife or concubine, investing the time, effort, and emotion into having children with them was substantial. Even now, with his several wives and concubines, Lu Changxing could already feel the limitations of his time and attention. He could not possibly care for each and every one equally. If these matters could be settled with money, relatively speaking, he wouldn't need to invest so much emotion and effort. The interior of the White Jade Tower was spacious and elegantly furnished, set up with simple yet refined seats, where 7 or 8 young ladies in uniform red dresses stood. Inside the hall, 2 young women in red dresses were explaining something to 2 cultivators who appeared to be customers. What would the young master like to know about? Do you wish to take a wife or concubine or to purchase a maid? Let me introduce you to our services. At that moment, a woman in a red dress saw Lu Changxing, approached with a beaming smile, and spoke. Do you have maids or concubines with a spiritual root here? Lu Changxing asked directly. The woman in the red dress was momentarily stunned. After carefully observing Lu Changxing's appearance and demeanor, and verifying that he was not joking, her smile grew even deeper. Knowing that Lu Changxing was a potentially significant customer, she promptly led him to the second floor. The furnishings on the second floor differed from the main hall below, divided into many private rooms. The woman in the red dress led Lu Changxing to a room and knocked on the door. "Come in." A languorous and tantalizing voice came from within, soul-stirring and causing anyone who heard it to tremble slightly in their spirit. Chapter 85. Do you smell like another woman? _1 The lady in the red dress pushed open the door and led Lu Changxing into the room. The room was very simple, furnished only with an ancient-looking table and chair set and a bookshelf, creating an elegant and comfortable ambience. By the window of the room, there was also a purple incense burner, with strands of incense burning inside, filling the room with a faint sandalwood fragrance. A beautiful woman in her 30s sat by the window, holding a scroll in her hand. Her black hair was lightly coiled up into a cloud bun and fixed with a golden phoenix hairpin. She wore a black phoenix bird mist gauze dress with its lapel slightly open, revealing her slender neck, delicate collarbone, and a proud expanse of snow-white bosom. On her arms were long, black gauze sleeve gloves, one hand holding a scroll and the other holding a cup of strong tea, exuding dignity and elegance, yet full of seductive charm. Beneath the gauze dress, her long, shapely legs were crossed, allowing one to catch a glimpse of plump and fair legs wrapped in black silk stockings, with one leg raised slightly. Her toes were hooked in a black phoenix bird-patterned high heel, hanging as if by a thread, highly provocative. When Lu Changxing saw this beautiful woman, he couldn't help but take a second glance. This woman, oh so seductive. She was different from the enchanting woman he encountered in the alley just now. Not that type of charm that came from employing bewitching techniques. But rather, she exuded an alluring air from head to toe. Merely sitting there, she was incredibly tempting, stirring fires in a man's heart. One could only say, White Jade Tower truly understood men. Utterly skilled in men's hearts. The beautiful lady saw Lu Changxing come in, and without any hurry, placed down her scroll. Her bright red lips lightly sipped from her teacup, leaving a mark on the porcelain edge, then smiled softly at Lu Changxing. That smile was like a whirlwind of flirtation and endless charm. Meanwhile, the lady in the red dress who had arrived with Lu Changxing quickly stepped forward and whispered a few words in the ear of the beautiful woman. After hearing the words, the beautiful lady also stood up. Her slender high heel sounded a light tap 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 on the floor as she swayed up to stand, laughing lightly. "This one is the White Jade Tower's manager, Feng Jianyang. May I have the honor of knowing your name, young master?" Han Li. Lu Changxing had not intended to conceal his name. After all, he had come in person. But looking at this bewitching woman before him made him subconsciously give a false name. "So it is young Master Han, please take a seat," said the beautiful woman as she ushered Lu Changxing to sit down, then bent over to pour tea for him. Lu Changxing could not only smell a rich fragrance but also caught a glimpse of Snow White between the fullness of the woman's chest. Damn vixen. Lu Changxing thought to himself. There was no need to think, he knew the woman was doing it intentionally, tempting him. Indeed, the tricks in the city were deep. He had only come to find out more about White Jade Tower, not planning to immediately buy anything or take a concubine or buy a maid. But faced with such tactics, he felt a bit embarrassed not to buy anything in the end. "Young Master Han must be visiting our establishment for the first time," said the beautiful woman slowly, having finished pouring tea, smiling and speaking with a soft, tempting voice. "Indeed, Han, someone truly is visiting your esteemed establishment for the first time," Lu Changxing nodded. "Young Master Han visiting our White Jade Tower is a great honor for us," she said. "Our creed at White Jade Tower is to ensure every customer leaves satisfied." Feng Jianyang spoke unhurriedly. "I wonder what are the young Master Han's requirements for taking a concubine or buying a maid? You may mention them, so this one can help select and recommend for you." After hearing this, Lu Changxing pondered a bit before replying, "To have a spiritual root, to be well-behaved and sensible, and as for age, not too old. For appearance and figure, average or above is fine." His requirements for a concubine and a maid were not high. Just to possess a spiritual root. For the rest, he was indifferent. Now was not the time to consider that aspect. As long as they had good conduct, were well-behaved, and sensible, that was all that mattered. As for appearance and figure, just about average would do. Of course, it would be best if they were like Chuzhenjin, on their own without many entanglements. He came to White Jade Tower because he thought if he were to take a concubine, he wanted to avoid too many complications, thus resolving to avoid trouble. Is young Master Han only looking to take concubines and buy maids, not to take a wife? Feng Jianyang asked, always keeping a smile on her face and speaking with a seductive and delicate voice. Exactly, Lu Changxing nodded. Since he had come to White Jade Tower, of course, he wasn't planning to take a wife. Although he tried to treat his wives and concubines equally, the moment he stepped into White Jade Tower, his thoughts were utilitarian. He did not want to mix feelings into it. As time passed, Lu Changxing felt he was gradually adapting to this world, and his morals were becoming more flexible. In the beginning, he used to worry all day about his wives and children. But now, he had become much more indifferent. He even wondered if this counted as developing an air of arrogance. Very well, I understand young Master Han's requirements. Please wait a moment, I will return shortly, Feng Jianyang said with a light chuckle, gracefully stood up, and left the room, leaving Lu Changxing by himself. A short while later, the alluring sound of tap 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 from high heels approached, accompanied by a burst of fragrant air. Feng Jianyang returned to the room, came to the table, and placed 5 jade slips on it. I just checked, and there happen to be 5 ladies who meet young Master Han's requirements. These 3 are maids, and these 2 are concubines. Young Master Han can take a look to see if there is anyone to your liking, said Feng Jianyang. With her arms wearing black gauze sleeve gloves, revealing only half of her creamy jade fingers, Feng Jianyang's hands appeared slender and enchanting. Chapter 86, Do you smell like another woman? Lu Changxing nodded slightly, picked up a jade slip, and placed it on his forehead, sensing it with his mental spirit. He immediately saw a vivid, lifelike image of a young woman in a yellow dress. This woman was about 18 or 19 years old, with an above-average face and figure, except her eyes lacked luster, carrying a sense of numbness and lifelessness. Despite the smile on her face, it was evident that it was a forced smile. He shook his head slightly and picked up the second jade slip. It contained the image of a 20-something female in white, much like the first, with numb eyes and a forced smile. The third jade slip held the image of a woman in her late 20s. She had a beautiful face and a plump figure, exuding a sense of dignity and maturity that came with being a young married woman. Although her eyes were not as numb as the first 2, it was clear to see that she was somewhat reluctant. After viewing the jade slips of these 3 maids, Lu Changxing furrowed his brows and picked up the 4th jade slip. Compared to the previous 3 women, this one seemed quite normal. In her 20s, with a beautiful and lovely face, dressed in a purple dress, she had a very sweet smile with 2 shallow dimples. Lu Changxing picked up the 5th jade slip to inspect. It was an image of a cute-looking girl with a petite but exquisitely proportioned figure. To Lu Changxing's surprise, this girl actually had a pair of fluffy fox ears on her head and a fluffy fox tail behind her, not seeming decorative, but rather inborn. Is this girl of the demon race, or perhaps a half-demon? Lu Changxing felt a bit of surprise upon seeing the fox-tailed girl in the jade slip. Having read many books, he knew that some demon beasts, upon breaking through to a certain realm, could refine their vertebrae and undergo transformation. Great demons that transformed could mate with the human race, and although it was hard for them to bear offspring, there was still a chance of producing children. Such offspring, although human in shape, would retain some traits of the demon beast. He put down the jade slip and turned to Feng Jianyang. Manager Feng, the girl in this jade slip, is she of the demon race? Correct, this girl is a half-demon with a cultivation level of 7th level energy refinement. She not only possesses a 6th grade spiritual root but also the high-rank bloodline of the golden-pupiled white fox, Feng Jianyang replied. Although this girl is willing to become a concubine, her requirements are relatively higher. She not only has preferences regarding her partner's appearance and age but also demands 48 middle-grade spirit stones as a betrothal gift, she added. However, with Mr. Han's appearance, I'm sure any young girl would be pleased, Feng Jianyang said with a smile, her charming eyes gazing at Lu Changxing as if looking at a lover. She has requirements regarding age and appearance, and also asks for 48 middle-grade spirit stones as a betrothal gift? Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing was at a loss for words for a moment. Spirit stones are categorized as lower grade spirit stone, middle grade spirit stone, superior grade spirit stone, supreme spirit stone. The spirit stones he usually used were all lower grade spirit stones. 48 middle grade spirit stones would be equivalent to 4,800 lower grade spirit stones. He had just thought this bestiared girl seemed quite nice. But upon hearing the price, he instantly backed out. And this was only the betrothal gift for taking a concubine. It didn't include future expenses and the mediation fee for the White Jade Tower. What about this one? Lu Changxing pointed at the jade slip of another purple-dressed woman and asked. This woman has a cultivation level of 6th level energy refinement, a 7th grade spiritual root, and has no specific demands for a partner. Only 19 middle grade spirit stones are required for her betrothal gift, responded Feng Jianyang. Seeing Lu Changxing's frown deepen, Feng Jianyang's red lips parted slightly as she spoke. Mr. Han, it is rare to find a woman with a spiritual root willing to be a servant, and they have always been in short supply. The requirements of these two women are not that high, and it's possible someone might take an interest in them in a few days. If Mr. Han finds them too expensive, you might consider these 3 maids, she continued. These 3 seem somewhat reluctant, Lu Changxing said tactfully. Mr. Han, you can rest assured on this count. All 3 have come to our White Jade Tower due to various reasons, and buying them as maids from us will absolutely not result in any karmic consequences for Mr. Han. We at the White Jade Tower conduct long-term business, priding ourselves on our reputation. Any maid purchased from our White Jade Tower comes with a 3-year after-sales guarantee. If any issue or trouble arises with a maid bought from our White Jade Tower within 3 years, we will take responsibility for addressing the matter and provide a satisfactory solution to the client, Feng Jianyang said, lifting her teacup for a sip, lips curled in a seductive smile, her voice confident. Hearing this, Lu Changxing nodded slightly. If she dared to make such a promise, it probably wasn't a significant issue. However, he still felt that such maids were not very reliable. He couldn't help but ask, doesn't the White Jade Tower have any maids with spiritual roots who have been nurtured from a young age? He was almost certain that this White Jade Tower was the same one where Hong Yi had bought Joer and Shu'er. He remembered Hong Yi mentioning that the 2 girls were orphans raised by the White Jade Tower from a young age. It seems Mr. Han is also somewhat informed about our White Jade Tower. Indeed, our White Jade Tower does rear its own young maids, but those with spiritual roots are always in high demand. They are pre-booked each year and bought up quickly. If Mr. Han wishes to purchase such maids, he would need to make a reservation in advance, Feng Jianyang said with a light laugh. Hearing this, Lu Changxing felt somewhat disappointed. He had initially hoped to buy a few maids or pets like Joer and Shu'er, who possessed spiritual roots. Chapter 87, Do you smell like another woman? Now it seems that maids with spiritual roots are highly sought after and not so easy to buy, as their prices are not cheap. That seems normal enough. After all, there are more men than women in the cultivation world. Not all cultivators are indifferent to desires and dedicated solely to arduous cultivation. Moreover, it's not just loose cultivators who purchase maids with spiritual roots. Many cultivation families also buy such maids with spiritual roots for their future generations. May I know the circumstances of these 3 maids and their prices? Lu Changxing sighed, pointed to the 3 maids listed on the jade slip on the table, and asked. It was clear that these 3 women had probably fallen on hard times and ended up at White Jade Tower to be sold as maids. They were indeed pitiable, unfortunate souls. If possible, one should lend a hand to save them, after all. To bear one's children, that must be better than their current situation, right? Besides, they would have no better way to repay a life-saving favor than to offer themselves and bear children as repayment. That seemed quite reasonable. This woman is at the 2nd level energy refinement, with a 9th grade spiritual root, and the price is 150 spirit stones. This woman is at the 4th level energy refinement, with a 7th grade spiritual root, and the price is 650 spirit stones. This woman is at the 6th level energy refinement, with a 6th grade spiritual root, and the price is 15 middle grade spirit stones. Feng Jianyang pointed to each of the 3 jade slips and introduced them one by one. Hearing these prices, Lu Changxing nodded slightly. The prices seemed acceptable to him. The first woman was just 150 spirit stones. Merely the price of a middle-grade magic artifact. Today, he had spent over 400 spirit stones on several artifacts. Are the prices of these 3 set according to their spiritual roots and cultivation levels? Lu Changxing asked curiously. After all, the prices of the 3 women varied greatly, and there was a substantial difference in their spiritual roots and cultivation levels as well. Spiritual root and cultivation level, appearance, and other factors are the main reasons, Feng Jianyang said softly. Does Master Han have someone in mind? Let's go with this one, Lu Changxing pondered for a moment, pointing to the first woman, priced at 150 spirit stones. Right now, he could only afford this maid. The main reason was that he was still uncertain about maids from White Jade Tower. He thought to start by buying a cheaper one to test the waters and see how it went. If it turned out to be satisfactory and without any issues, he would become a regular customer of White Jade Tower in the future. But if, upon arrival, he felt it wasn't right, he would take the loss of 150 spirit stones as a lesson learned. By the way, Manager Feng, there are no issues with the maid's health, right? Like, any problems with fertility? Lu Changxing suddenly thought of something important and asked. His main purpose for buying a maid was to father children, so he naturally had to make sure of that detail. Upon hearing this, Feng Jianyang laughed coquettishly and said in an extremely charming manner, Master Han can rest assured on that account. If you decide to purchase, our White Jade Tower will provide you with all the information on the maid and ensure she undergoes a complete health examination to confirm there are no issues whatsoever. However, this woman is not currently in 9 Dragons Market, she's at another branch of our White Jade Tower. If Master Han is certain he wants her, a deposit is required first so that I can have her sent over, Feng Jianyang said as such. Fine, how much is the deposit, and how long will it take for her to be delivered? Having confirmed the purchase, Lu Changxing didn't dawdle or hesitate. The price for this maid is 150 spirit stones, with a deposit of 30 spirit stones. As for how long it will take to deliver her, I don't have an exact time and will need to give you a response later, young Master Han. However, the time will not exceed 1 month, no matter how long it takes. Feng Jianyang said with a smile. Okay, Lu Changxing took out 30 spirit stones. Then Feng Jianyang produced a spiritual contract and a set of information on the maid. Lu Changxing picked them up to examine. The contents of the spiritual contract were straightforward. Lu Changxing had paid a deposit of 30 spirit stones, and if he decided not to proceed with the purchase, the deposit would not be refunded. Moreover, White Jade Tower must deliver the person within a month, and if they were unable to do so, or if the person did not match the description provided, they would not only refund the spirit stones but also provide double the compensation. The information were the details regarding the maid Lu Changxing was purchasing. The woman's name was Xiao Yuyao, 19 years old, and belonged to an energy refining family. As her family had been destroyed, she had been sold to White Jade Tower. In terms of health, she was in perfect condition and still a virgin, without any issues. After reviewing the information, Lu Changxing signed the contract. If young Master Han resides in the 9 Dragons Market, you can tell me your address, so once the person is delivered, I can have someone notify you directly, Feng Jianyang said, dividing the spiritual contract so that each had a copy and giving Lu Changxing a seductive smile. Okay, when she arrives, you can send someone to notify me at the Lu family spiritual talisman shop in Qingzhou. Lu Changxing didn't hide his address. Firstly, as the reputation of White Jade Tower was quite good, he didn't need to worry about any potential issues, and it indeed made things much more convenient. Secondly, it was a way to show that he wasn't a loose cultivator and had the backing of the Qingzhou Lu family. Hearing Lu Changxing mention the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop in Qingzhou, Feng Jianyang didn't show any change in expression. Her red lips curled into an enticing smile. All right, no problem. As soon as the maid is delivered, I will send someone to notify the young master at the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop in Qingzhou. Okay, in that case, I shall take my leave now. Lu Changxing put away the spiritual contract and rose to bid farewell. If young Master Han visits White Jade Tower in future, simply ask for me by letting the maids know, Feng Jianyang said laughingly, her demeanor oozing allure. All right, Lu Changxing let out a long sigh of relief after exiting the White Jade Tower. He thought the manageress of White Jade Tower was quite the enchantress, with every movement she made filled with seduction. I wonder if the White Jade Tower sells its own people? A thought suddenly flashed through Lu Changsheng's mind. With a grin and a shake of his head, he cast aside such whimsical thoughts and headed towards the spiritual talisman shop. A quarter of an hour later, upon returning to the spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changxing nodded slightly to a few employees and went straight to the third floor. Upon reaching the third floor, he saw Lu Miaoge, who was sitting by the window deeply engrossed in reading a book, with her long, beautiful hair falling loosely over her shoulders, and her white dress clinging to her body, revealing her graceful figure. Hearing some noise, she slightly turned her stunning profile towards Lu Changxing and gave a small nod. Changxing, you're back. Sister Miaoge, Lu Changxing smiled and nodded. The sight of Lu Miaoge reading reminded him of Feng Jianyang from the White Jade Tower. When he had entered the room, Feng Jianyang was also sitting by the window reading a book, but the two had completely different reading demeanors and styles. Just as Lu Changxing sat down, Lu Miaoge suddenly furrowed her delicate brows, gazing at him as she sniffed lightly. Chapter 88, Treasure Bone Technique, Your maid has arrived. _1 Lu Changxing noticed Lu Miaoge's subtle actions. He too sniffed gently. Immediately, he detected a faint scent of sandalwood and a woman's fragrance on himself. It was left behind in the White Jade Tower while discussing matters with Feng Jianyang. Miss wouldn't think that I went to visit a brothel, right? Looking at Lu Miaoge's expressionless and detached demeanor, Lu Changxing didn't know why, but he felt a slight pause in his heart. A feeling of guilt unexpectedly arose. But the next moment, thinking that he only went to the White Jade Tower to buy a maid, not to visit a brothel, what was there to feel guilty about? Sister Miaoge, I just passed by the White Jade Tower on my way back. Thinking of buying a maid, I went in to inquire about it, he added. By the way, is the White Jade Tower reliable? Lu Changxing found a topic to talk about, using it as a way to explain the fragrance on his body. As for buying a maid, he had no intention of hiding it. After all, it wasn't something shameful, there was nothing to conceal. Eventually, when the maid arrived, he would bring her back and keep her by his side, so it was better to inform Lu Miaoge now. The White Jade Tower? At that, Lu Miaoge was slightly taken aback, hearing a hint of explanation in Lu Changsheng's words. She said softly, the White Jade Tower is almost everywhere in the marketplaces of Jiang country, and I haven't heard of any issues. Its reputation is quite good. I've heard that the White Jade Tower not only has a presence in Jiang country but also has influence in many countries within the southern wilderness cultivation realm, with a nascent soul true monarch backing it. Lu Miaoge remarked. They have influence in other countries, and a nascent soul true monarch backing them? Lu Changxing was surprised upon hearing this. As someone who loved to read, he certainly understood that this world was vast beyond measure. Jiang country was but a small part of it. His realm was called the Southern Wilderness. In the Southern Wilderness, there were well over 100 countries like Jiang country. Jiang country had only one nascent soul true monarch to guard it, ranking it as average among these countries. However, the White Jade Tower's ability to establish itself in multiple countries was certainly no small feat. Most likely, there wasn't just one nascent soul true monarch behind it. Indeed, one wouldn't dare to conduct such business without some strength. Changxing, for us cultivators, our cultivation level is fundamental, she stated. Although your spiritual root talent is average, you have an exceptional talent in the talisman path. If you can become a second-grade talisman master, there might be hope for you to achieve foundation establishment in the future, Lu Miaoge spoke softly. Through prolonged contact, she could tell that Lu Changxing was not the type to be merely indulged in the pleasures of women. He was very ambitious. His marrying and taking concubines was due to his poor spiritual root, knowing that the path of immortality was out of reach. Hence, through his family, he sought to continue his pursuit of immortality through his lineage. Sister Miaoge, I understand, Lu Changxing sincerely acknowledged, knowing that Lu Miaoge meant well, and he wouldn't refute her words. After all, what Lu Miaoge said was true. In the cultivation world, only one's cultivation level and strength were fundamental. Family heritage, lineage, leaving a mark in history, none of those mattered as much as one's own cultivation and strength, one's own longevity and becoming a legend. I take wives and concubines and sire children, all for the sake to become an immortal, to pursue longevity and become a legend in history. Lu Changsheng's eyes glittered with depth and determination. Seeing the firmness in Lu Changsheng's eyes, Lu Miaoge thought he was taking her words to heart. She couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. She had a rather favorable impression of Lu Changsheng. A young man from a secular farming household, with only a 9th grade spiritual root, rejected by the immortal sects, sought to pursue immortality by joining the Lu family as a son-in-law. Yet, he rose step by step through the talisman path, reaching this point with the status of a son-in-law. To her, that achievement had outdone many others. After chatting for a while, Lu Changsheng headed to the resting room. By now, this third-floor resting room had become his own room. Inside the resting room, Lu Changsheng took out the magical treasure fragment he had purchased at the marketplace. I wonder if this thing really is a fragment of a magical treasure, he thought. If it is, then I've struck it rich. Lu Changsheng looked at the uneven black iron piece in his hand and mumbled to himself. Without further ado, he began to refine the black iron block using the sacrificial refinement technique of the 100 Refinements treasure body art. If he succeeded in the refinement, it would confirm that the block was indeed a fragment of a magical treasure and could be integrated into his body as part of the 100 Refinements treasure body technique. Tisk. As Lu Changsheng's mental spirit surged with spiritual power, like an invisible flame, he started refining the black iron block before him. Under the influence of his mental spirit, the black iron block revealed a faint dark glow. As time passed, Lu Changsheng expended all of his spiritual power and exhaled deeply. Is this black iron piece actually a magical treasure fragment? However, all the inscriptions within are destroyed, possessing no special effects. It must be just a fragment of some large magical treasure. Nevertheless, it is sufficient. As long as I refine this magical treasure fragment and integrate it into my body, my 100 Refinements treasure body technique will progress rapidly. Lu Changsheng, looking at the black iron block before him, showed a weary yet surprised expression. Through the refinement he just performed, he had confirmed that the black iron block was indeed a fragment of a magical treasure, albeit a thoroughly damaged one. Inside, all enchantments and special effects were gone. It was simply a particularly hard material. However, even in this damaged state, it wasn't easy for him, a mere 4th-level energy refinement weakling, to refine it and integrate it into his body. Probably, it would take him the better part of a month to complete. Lu Changsheng took out some jade bamboo wine, drank a sip, then took out a spirit stone and held it in his hand, starting to recover his spiritual power. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.